Chapter 622. In a quiet little courtyard, Yun Luofeng sat quietly in a pavilion. She gazed deeply at the sky not far away, and an evil light flashed across her eyes. It's been a year. It's been a whole year. I wonder if Yun Xiao has already left the Xiao family's secret territory. If Yun Xiao has left, she will definitely come to the doctor's conference to find me. Thinking of this, her heart calmed down and a lazy and wanton smile appeared on her face. Yun Luofeng. Suddenly, a voice sounded out from nearby, and it disturbed her tranquil mood. She leaned against the pearl in the pavilion and used the back of her head as a pillow. She glanced lazily at the few people who were walking in from outside the courtyard. Among them, one of them was Lin Yiting, whom he had just met today. As for the other two, one was a sage-like old man, and the other was a handsome middle-aged man. Compared to the old man's indifference, a trace of hatred flashed across the middle-aged man's eyes, and his gaze was also dark. Yun Luofeng did not need to think too much to guess the middle-aged man's identity. The city lord of the medical city, Lin Guo. He was also the main culprit who had caused her second uncle to be so miserable. Seeing the people who were walking over quickly, she raised the corners of her lips slightly. I don't seem to welcome you here. Lin Ji's expression changed instantly, but he remembered Lin Yiting's previous instructions and could only suppress his anger. He said coldly, I'm here to apologize to you. Apologize? Yun Luofeng's evil eyes swept across Lin Guo. If you want to apologize, kneel down first. The young girl's tone was domineering and arrogant. Her arrogant expression carried a condescending aura. It was obvious that she did not care about Lin Guo at all. Yun Luofeng, don't push your luck. Lin Guo clenched his fists in anger and his expression was ashen. Father, Lin Yiting frowned slightly and lowered her voice. What's a temporary sacrifice for the sake of the big picture? Yun Luofeng's talent is not bad. If I don't rope her in, she will very likely be roped in by other elders. At that time, not only will I lose a powerful person, but you will also not be able to mention revenge. Lin Ji's expression changed. He knew that what Lin Yiting said was the truth. If Yun Luofeng was roped in by another elder, then he could forget about taking revenge in the future. Thinking of this, he took a deep breath and knelt down on one knee. I was wrong before. I apologize. So you also know how to admit your mistakes. Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows. But you didn't even kowtow. What kind of apology is that? Lin Guo was so angry that he almost exploded. His face was flushed and his eyes were filled with anger. Making him kneel was already his bottom line, but this woman actually wanted him to kowtow to her? Dream on. Father. Lin Yiting couldn't help but call out, do you want to waste all your previous efforts? All previous efforts for naught? These 4 words smashed into Lin Ji's heart. He clenched his fists and banged his head on the ground. Is this enough? After kowtowing once, Lin Guo stood up. At this moment, his expression was extremely ugly, and the anger in his eyes intensified. I've already apologized and kowtowed. Can you fulfill your promise and forgive me? Promise? Yun Luofeng smiled gently. I'm sorry. I don't think I made any promises, nor did I promise to forgive you. I only wanted you to kneel and kowtow. I didn't think that you would agree so obediently. Chapter 623. This time, not to mention Lin Guo, even Lin Yiting and Luo Fu, who were at the side, had ugly expressions on their faces. This woman was clearly playing with them. Little girl, Luo Fu's eyes slightly darkened. Your previous dispute has also caused great harm to the medical city. However, the medical city has let bygones be bygones and come to apologize to you. Why are you so unwilling to let go? The old man's words made Yun Luofeng laugh out loud. The medical city has been injured? I don't know what kind of injuries the medical city has suffered. Can they compare to my second uncle's 10 years of darkness? Can they compare to his 10 years of living a life worse than death? Luo Fu frowned, his tone gradually becoming impatient. The young city lord of the medical city has suffered a blow, and has not been able to recover his spirit for so many years. Isn't this Yun Qingya's fault? However, the medical city has already let bygones be bygones and apologized to you. Why do you have to make things so difficult for us? This is not good for you either. On the stage it was a fair duel. He was inferior to others and lost to my second uncle. For this, he did not hesitate to send experts from the medical city to take revenge. Yun Luofeng's face carried a demonic smile as his cold gaze gradually fell on the old man. If my second uncle was you, would you still think that it was my second uncle's fault? No wonder the medical city was so shameless. It seemed that the people from the Doctors' Association were no different from the medical city. They were equally shameless. Luo Fu's expression was somewhat ugly. Even if it's the medical city's fault, Lin Go has already apologized to you. Can't you repay evil with kindness? Other than Luo Fu, many people had already said this to Yun Luofeng. Repay evil with kindness? Sorry, she had always known that if someone owed her a point, she would repay them 10 times. I am irreconcilable with the medical city. The young girl's words were arrogant and domineering as they slowly sounded in this quiet courtyard. Luo Fu's expression completely darkened. Just as he was about to reprimand her, Lin Yiting raised her hand and stopped him. She shook her head at Luo Fu, then turned her gaze to Yun Luofeng. I know you have a grudge in your heart. Then tell me, what should our medical city do to beg for your forgiveness? Yun Luofeng smiled evilly. If you want me to forgive your medical city, it's not impossible. Wait until the day your medical city is destroyed. I will forgive you. Luo Fu was so angry that he laughed. His gaze was no longer as calm as it was at the beginning, and instantly became cold. Yun Luofeng, you are the most savage little girl I have ever seen. Do you really think we have to suck up to you? I admit that your talent is not bad, and I do have the intention to rope you in. However, you're not the only genius in this world. When he spoke up to here, he paused for a moment and continued. Not to mention that a genius can only rule the world if he doesn't perish. So, I hope you don't die too quickly. Yiting, let's go. The old man's tone was clearly threatening. Before he left, he glanced back at Yun Luofeng, a sharp light in his eyes. Since this little girl was not willing to be used by him, then he would rather destroy her than let her join the ranks of the others. Yun Luofeng, my master has a bad temper, don't take it to heart. Lin Yiting looked at Yun Luofeng and was silent for a while, then said, If you regret it, I welcome you to find me at any time. In Lin Yiting's heart, she still wanted to do everything she could to rope in Yun Luofeng. If there was really no way to make her submit, then she could only listen to her master's orders and kill her. Chapter 624. After Luo Fu left the courtyard, he returned to the study. Once he entered the room, he walked to a chair and angrily smoothed his robes before sitting down. That girl really doesn't know what's good for her. Master, Lin Yiting followed him in and smiled elegantly. Leave Yun Luofeng to me for now. I will think of a way to make her obey us. Luo Fu sighed. That girl is too stubborn. I'm afraid it won't be that easy to make her obey us. Give me some time, let me try again. Lin Yiting narrowed her eyes and a murderous glint flashed across them. If it really doesn't work, I will personally take care of her. All right. Luo Fu's expression was cold and his gaze was cold. Yiting, that woman is full of tricks. You must not fall for her tricks. Also, I just received news that the Ghost Emperor is already on his way to the Doctors' Association. He will arrive in about 3 days. So, you must be prepared. While the Ghost Emperor is at the association, do not let any woman get close to him. In the entire Doctors' Association, there were countless people who wanted to harm the Ghost Emperor. That was why Luo Fu had warned Lin Yiting. Lin Yiting nodded seriously. Her eyes were solemn as she said, I understand. Since you understand, you can go now. The meeting will begin tomorrow. During this time, you can give Yun Luofeng some trouble and let her understand the importance of having a backer. The moonlight was like water. Yun Luofeng was just about to sleep when she heard a knock on the door. She paused and asked, "Who is it?" "Little Yun, it's me. Are you asleep?" Elder Rong's aged voice slowly drifted into the room. Yun Luofeng raised her eyebrows. "Elder Rong, why are you looking for me so late at night?" "That's right. Little Yun, can I go in first?" "All right." Yun Luofeng thought for a moment before agreeing to Elder Rong's request. Creak. The door was pushed open, and Elder Rong, dressed in a gray robe, walked in. He sat down in Yun Luofeng's room without any trace of politeness, minding his own business and pouring himself a cup of tea. "Little Yun, your tea is pretty good. Where did you get it from?" Elder Rong had just taken a sip of the tea when his eyes suddenly lit up. He asked with a smile, "These are the tea leaves I brought. If you want, I can give you some." Yun Luofeng straightened her dress and sat down in front of Elder Rong. "Speak, why have you come to find me now?" "Little Yun, I heard that Lin Yiting and Lin Go came to look for you today." Elder Rong looked at Yun Luofeng doubtfully and asked. Yun Luofeng nodded lightly. "There is also an old man. If I am not wrong, he should be Lin Yiting's master." Hearing the girl's words, Elder Rong's expression turned ugly. "What are they doing here? Did I hurt you?" The girl's slender fingers gently held the teacup, brought it to her lips, took a sip and then slowly put it down. "They came here to rope me in." "Roping him in?" Elder Rong was startled and frowned. "If I'm not wrong, this should be Lin Yiting's idea. Compared to her father and brother, Lin Yiting is a smart person. She knows what's best for herself. She must have taken a fancy to your talent and wanted you to pledge allegiance to her. Unfortunately, you rejected her." He did not need to think too much to know that Yun Luofeng must have rejected these people. However, "Little Yun, Lin Yiting will definitely not let this go. She will think of other ways to rope you in. Furthermore, I've come to find you for another matter." Chapter 625. Elder Rong's expression was solemn. Every time the Doctors' Association meets, they would send out invitations to young doctors who have yet to join the association. This was also the reason why I was able to receive your invitation so easily. Before the start of each conference, these young doctors would go through a trial. Those who pass the trial will be recruited by the various factions of the Doctors' Association. Elder Rong paused for a moment before he continued. Hence, before the meeting begins, the elders of the Doctors' Association will try to recruit the young disciples. Hence, I'm guessing that other than Elder Luofu, there will be other elders who will come to see you. Yun Luofeng gently tapped her finger on the table as a demonic light flashed across her pitch-black eyes. The corners of her lips were curled into a cold smile. "I'm not here to participate in the doctors' conference. I'm only here to deal with the Medicine City." If the Medicine City had not gone to the doctors' conference, she would never have come here. Elder Rong shook his head and smiled bitterly. "Yun girl, you've already received the Medicine City's invitation. It would be inappropriate for you to not participate in the conference. Besides, I've heard that the prize for this conference is an extremely valuable treasure." "What treasure?" "The Dragon Crystal Sword." The Dragon Crystal Sword may not be a divine weapon, but it was much more powerful than most weapons. No wonder Elder Rong had wanted to trick Yun Luofeng into participating in this competition. However, when she heard that the prize for the competition was the Dragon Crystal Sword, a light flashed across Yun Luofeng's eyes. "All right. I'll participate in this conference." Of course, what she needed was not the Dragon Crystal Sword. It was the Dragon Crystal on the sword. It was an essential item for refining puppets. Ha! After getting the answer he wanted, Boss Rong laughed and stood up. "Little Yun, if that's the case, then you should prepare well and participate in the trials tomorrow. I won't disturb you now, goodbye." After saying his piece, Elder Rong turned around and left with a smile. At this moment, the old man was clearly in a good mood. His elderly face was full of smiles. Just as Elder Rong had left, a gentle breeze blew into the room. A sharp light flashed across Yun Luofeng's eyes. She turned towards the window and shouted in a stern voice, "Who is it? Show yourself." "Mistress, it's me." A familiar voice came from outside the window. Then, Qin Yuan, dressed in a long gray robe, jumped in and landed in front of Yun Luofeng. "Qin Yuan?" Yun Luofeng's eyes were filled with confusion. "Why are you here?" Qin Yuan glanced at Yun Luofeng and respectfully replied, "Mistress, my master knows that you will definitely attend the doctor's conference, so he sent me to inform Mistress that he is on his way here. Due to a sudden situation, I need to delay for a few days." Yun Xiao was coming? This news caused Yun Luofeng to rejoice in his heart. His pitch-black eyes were filled with joy. "I got it. I will wait for him here." After being separated for a year, she was finally going to see that callous man again. Her heart involuntarily trembled. "By the way, Qin Yuan, how has General Yun's residence been lately? Are there any blind precursors causing trouble?" Qin Yuan shook his head. "While you've been away, Mistress, Elder Ning has been keeping watch over General Yun's residence. For the time being, no one would dare to have any ill intentions towards General Yun's residence. Don't worry, Mistress. Besides, his master has already emerged from closed-door cultivation. How could he allow anyone to harm General Yun's residence? Wasn't that the same as digging their own grave?" Chapter 626. Yun Luofeng pondered for a moment, then continued to ask, "Is there news of my second uncle?" "This." Qin Yuan scratched his head. "Searching Ya hasn't returned to the general's residence. I don't know where he went either." Yun Luofeng's heart trembled slightly, and his tightly furrowed brows carried a hint of worry. "Second uncle hasn't returned to the general's residence for the past year. Where could he have gone? Could it be that something happened to him?" "Mistress, don't worry." Qin Yuan seemed to feel Yun Luofeng's worry and hurriedly comforted her. "Searching Ya will be fine. He probably went somewhere to train and will be back soon." "I hope so." Yun Luofeng's lightly furrowed brows relaxed. "After the conference, if second uncle still doesn't show up, then I'll go to the forest of no return to find him." The doctor's conference was held in the plaza. When the morning sun rose, the entire plaza was filled with people. Everyone sat down orderly according to their seats and waited quietly where they were. Not long after, Lin Yiting, who was wearing a yellow dress, walked in with a group of association disciples. Her steps were light, noble and elegant, and she had the bearing of a noble. Lin Yiting's gaze swept across the crowd. The moment she saw Yun Luofeng, she paused for a moment, then quickly looked away. "Everyone, this time's conference will be hosted by me. I will definitely give you a fair and just trial. I will not practice favoritism." Lin Yiting's brows were firm. "Now, I will first explain the rules of the trial. Because this time's trial is hosted by the Doctors' Association, it will definitely be related to medical skills. I will arrange some patients for you, and you must cure them within the allotted time. Otherwise, you will fail the trial. Do you understand?" Hearing Lin Yiting's words, the group of young doctors below the stage let out excited voices. "Understood. All right, I will let the patients come forward later." Lin Yiting looked at Yun Luofeng again, and a light flashed in her beautiful eyes. "Yun Luofeng, in order to rope you in, I can only do something during your competition. Otherwise, if you successfully defeat other opponents, you will definitely be fought over by the other elders in the association. Because of this, I can only make you fail the competition." Lin Yiting took a deep breath. As long as she could make the other elders give up on the idea of fighting over Yun Luofeng, so what if he resorted to all means? Soon, a group of patients was carried into the square and sent to the various doctors. Yun Luofeng stared at the wailing young man in front of him. He narrowed his eyes slightly and an evil light flashed across them. He said coldly, "He is not sick." In this quiet square, The young girl's words were very clear and fell into everyone's ears. What nonsense are you talking about? The young man's expression changed, and he roared angrily, I'm in so much pain here. How dare you say I'm not sick? Are you a doctor or not? His medical skills had reached such a level. You didn't even take my pulse, yet you directly concluded that I'm not sick. Yun Luofeng glanced at him evilly. I want to ask you, why are you pretending to be sick when you are not sick? Pretending to be sick? In the audience seats, Elder Rong was stunned. His astonished gaze swept over Yun Luofeng and then turned to Lin Yiting, who was on the high platform. His eyes were filled with shock. He had never imagined that Lin Yiting would do such a thing. As long as this young man claimed that there was definitely something wrong with his body, then she could use this to announce that Yun Luofeng's medical skills were terrible. Because of this, many elders who wanted to rope in Yun Luofeng would withdraw. Chapter 6:27. Lin Yiting frowned slightly and turned to look at Yun Luofeng. She then said, The Doctors' Association has gone through a strict selection process to select these patients. It can't be wrong. There must be something wrong with his body. Miss Yun, you should take his pulse first. There's no need. Yun Luofeng shook her head. She still said the same thing, there's nothing wrong with his body. The young man on the stretcher seemed to be rolling on the ground in pain. His forehead was covered in cold sweat and his face looked very weak. Do you think that I'm pretending to be sick? The young man gritted his teeth and said angrily, A quack is a quack. Because you can't cure my illness, you say that I'm pretending to be sick. What right does a person like you have to participate in the doctor's conference? On the high platform, Lin Yiting watched the farce below her expressionlessly. Her beautiful eyes flickered and the corners of her lips unconsciously curled into an arc. Very quickly, it disappeared. Yun Luofeng was indeed quite capable. She could actually tell that this young man was pretending to be sick. Even Elder Zhang from the Doctors' Association might not be able to tell the young man's physical condition. This was because she had used some tricks to make this young man look like he was seriously ill. It was as if she had used a smokescreen. Other than herself, no one else would think that he was pretending to be sick. Cough, cough. The sound of a dry cough rang out from the high platform. Then, the old man who had been standing beside Lin Yiting since the beginning slowly walked down. His footsteps were illusory and he arrived in front of Yun Luofeng in just a few steps. One of you says that he's pretending to be sick, but the other says that he's not. So, let me determine if this person is really pretending to be sick. The old man stroked his beard and glanced at Lin Yiting on the high platform. If someone is using their power to avenge a personal grudge and falsifying information during the conference, I will certainly report this to the president. No matter how biased the Doctors' Association had been towards the medical city, falsifying information during the doctors' conference was absolutely not allowed. Otherwise, it would be tarnishing the sacred Doctors' Association. Then, the old man lowered his body and gently placed his finger on the young man's pulse. He frowned and pondered for a long time before he stood up. This young man's pulse is beating very quickly and the pain in his body is not fake. It's just strange that even with my medical skills, I can't determine his illness. It can only prove that his body is indeed sick. This old man was quite honest. He clearly stated that even he could not diagnose the young man's illness. He wasn't afraid of losing face in public. Elder Rong was stunned. His eyes were filled with astonishment. Elder Lan Hong could be considered a fresh stream in the Doctors' Association. It was impossible for him to lie, nor would he side with Lin Yiting. Even he said that the young man was not pretending to be sick. Could it be no? Yun Luofeng's strength was there. Since she said that the young man was pretending to be sick, then there must be a reason. Elder Rong still had great trust in Yun Luofeng. Thinking of this, Elder Rong calmed his restless emotions and stared deeply at the two people in the square. TSK, I really don't know where this woman stole her invitation card from. How dare she attend the conference with such medical skills? In the plaza, the geniuses who were also invited to participate could not help but mock him. They looked at Yun Luofeng with disdain. I think she knows that she can't cure the patient, so she said that the patient is pretending to be sick. Even Elder Lan Hong said that there is indeed a problem with the other party's body. This proves that he isn't faking it. Chapter 6:28. As if she did not hear the mocking voices, Yun Luofeng slowly walked in front of the young man and looked down at him condescendingly. Do you know the consequences of pretending to be sick in front of me? The young man's expression changed abruptly and a dark look flashed across his eyes. Elder Lan Hong has already diagnosed my body and proved that I have an illness. Even at this point in time, you still insist that I'm pretending to be ill? Everyone else whispered to each other and looked at Yun Luofeng with even more mockery. This woman is really shameless. Could it be that the Doctors' Association knows how to fake things? She is clearly not capable enough. She is trying to shirk responsibility. Elder Rong's expression was a little anxious, and he kept signaling Yun Luofeng with his eyes. Then, he stood up and was about to speak up for her, but at that moment, the young girl suddenly moved. Bang! The young girl grabbed the young man's arm tightly and flung him to the ground. Then, she stepped on him and raised her eyebrows insolently. What do you want? The young man roared angrily and struggled to get up. He glared angrily at Yun Luofeng. Everyone was stunned. No one had expected that Yun Luofeng would directly attack an injured patient in the Doctors' Association. He had no scruples at all. Lin Yiting frowned slightly and gave the man next to her a look. The man understood Lin Yiting's meaning and quickly stood up. His eyes were as sharp as a sword. Yun Luofeng, how dare you? You hurt someone even though you are useless. How arrogant! How can an immoral person like you be worthy of the word doctor? Also, who gave someone like you an invitation and actually allowed you to come in for a trial? Yun Luofeng glanced at the man. Her eyes were filled with arrogance and unruliness. It was as if this man was merely a clown to her, and she could not even be bothered to say a word to him. Xiaoping. At this moment, Lin Yiting stood up and said pretentiously, Yun Luofeng's invitation was given by someone from the medical pavilion, but it was also with my permission. After all, based on her performance outside, she is indeed qualified to participate in the doctors' conference. Senior Sister Yiting, those are just some rumors from the outside world. Rumors can't be trusted at all. Maybe those people took her money, so they helped her to brag. I don't think this woman is that good. Qiu Ping's lips curled into a sarcastic smile as he narrowed his eyes at Yun Luofeng. Moreover, Senior Sister Yiting, have you forgotten how she treated you previously? You kindly brought the city lord of the medical city to apologize to her, but not only did she reject your apology, she even insulted you. Why are you still speaking up for such a person? Qiu Ping sneered and stared coldly at Yun Luofeng. He and Lin Yiting had done this kind of thing many times. All these years, he had always spoken on behalf of Lin Yiting, and only then did Lin Yiting come out to be a good person. But no matter what he did for Lin Yiting, he did it willingly. Lin Yiting shook her head. I've told you before that you must repay evil with good. Why don't you understand? Furthermore, the medical city was in the wrong for what happened all those years ago. It's only right for them to apologize. Most importantly, I believe that Yun Luofeng is a talent that can be molded. Even if she failed the trial, I still intend to take her in. Chapter 6:29. Senior Sister, don't speak up for this Yun Luofeng. What moldable talent! She's clearly a piece of trash. You only feel that the medical city has harmed Yun Qingya, so you feel guilty. That's why you want to give Yun Luofeng a chance, but he doesn't appreciate it. Shut up. Lin Yiting's face turned cold. Qiu Ping, you have to remember, no one in this world is trash. Even if Yun Luofeng's medical skills are really not good, I still have the confidence to nurture her. Yun Luofeng crossed his arms over his chest, and the corner of his lips curled up into a sinister smile. He narrowed his eyes as he watched the two of them echo each other. No one else noticed, but she clearly saw that at the very beginning, Lin Yiting had given that man a meaningful glance. It was obvious that Lin Yiting had taught him to say these words. After Lin Yiting finished speaking, she turned to Yun Luofeng and said with a graceful smile, "Miss Yun, don't worry. Regardless of whether you succeed or fail this time, I will leave you a way out. Treat it as compensation to your Yun family." The meaning behind her words was that she had set her eyes on Yun Luofeng not because he had strength, but because she wanted to compensate the Yun family. In this way, it indirectly proved that Yun Luofeng's strength was lacking. It also caused some of the elders who wanted to subdue her to retreat. In order to prevent her from joining the other elders' factions, Lin Yiting was truly unscrupulous. Unfortunately, things that were useful to others might not be effective to Yun Luofeng. "If you really want to compensate me, then kill Lin Gu and his son." She raised the corner of her lips, her eyes insolent. "As long as the medical city is not destroyed, I will not rest for a day." If it was anyone else, they would definitely be angry after hearing Yun Luofeng's words. However, Lin Yiting still had an elegant and appropriate smile on her face as she said in a friendly manner, "I know you are angry in your heart. It doesn't matter, I can wait for you. As long as you are loyal to me, I can hand over all my medical skills to you. Just treat it as compensation to you." The crowd was in an uproar. The doctors who were participating in the trial all forgot about the treatment at hand. Other than resentment, there was also envy in their eyes as they looked at Yun Luofeng. They hated Yun Luofeng for not knowing how to appreciate favors, but they also envied her for not needing to pass the trial to join the Doctors' Association. Why didn't they get such a good opportunity? Yun Luofeng's foot was still stepping on the young patient's body, making it hard for him to breathe. His eyes were bulging and bloodshot. "You also want to guide my medical skills?" She glanced at Lin Yiting with her evil eyes and smiled coldly. "But, since you know so much about me, don't you know what happened to the last person who said he wanted to guide me? 2 years ago, on the big ship on the Qin River, Mu Wushuang claimed in front of everyone that he would guide her. However, in the end, he was severely slapped in the face in public. This matter was known to the entire Long Yuan country. Lin Yiting had already gathered information about Yun Luofeng. How could she not know about this matter? Therefore, her expression was slightly ugly. She forced a smile and said, "I'm just being kind." No matter how good Yun Luofeng's medical skills were, under the current circumstances, it was impossible for him to make a comeback. Yun Luofeng, seeing that Lin Yiting was being bullied by her, Chiu Ping flipped out on the spot. "You don't know what's good for you. Sister Yiting is always thinking about you, but you humiliate her like this. Also, immediately release the person under your foot. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite." At first, everyone's eyes were attracted by the fight between Yun Luofeng and Lin Yiting. They all forgot about the person under her foot. Chapter 630. "I'm sorry, I forgot about him." Yun Luofeng moved her foot away. She grabbed the young man's clothes and pulled him up from the ground. There was a trace of evil in the smile on her lips. "I'll give you one more chance. Who made you pretend to be sick?" The young man's expression changed and he roared angrily, "I told you, I'm not pretending to be sick. Is that so?" Yun Luofeng raised the corner of her lips and threw the young man in front of Lan Hong. "Check his pulse again." Lan Hong was a little shocked, but he still crouched down and placed his finger on the young man's pulse. This time, he was completely dumbfounded. He said in a daze, "That's impossible. I just felt that his pulse was abnormal. Why is it so normal now? Based on his current pulse, he's very healthy. That's impossible." The young man's eyes were filled with fear. He said angrily, "There's definitely something wrong with my body. You're all talking nonsense." As he said this, his body started to tremble. If he didn't complete Qiu Ping's task this time, his wife would be in danger. But he clearly didn't understand what had happened. Why had his pulse suddenly returned to normal? Before he came, Qiu Ping had given him a bowl of medicinal soup. It was that soup that had messed up his pulse and caused him so much pain. But just as he was about to succeed, something like this happened at the most crucial moment. Suddenly, the young man seemed to remember something. He hurriedly turned to Yun Luofeng, his eyes filled with fear. It's this woman. It must be her doing. Just now, when this woman had stepped on him, he had clearly felt a trace of spiritual energy enter his body. The spiritual power must have interfered, causing the bowl of medicinal soup in his body to lose its effect. Lin Yiting frowned and looked at Qiu Ping next to her. A sharp light flashed across her beautiful eyes. Meeting the light in her eyes, Qiu Ping's heart instantly tensed up. He no longer cared about Lan Hong's position in the Doctors' Association and hurriedly said, "Elder Lan Hong, all the patients who come here have been strictly screened. How could there be a mistake? You must have sensed it wrong. He can't be a healthy person." Lan Hong looked impatient. He glared at Qiu Ping and said, "So you think my medical skills are bad? I can't even tell if he's healthy or not." The crowd instantly returned to silence. Regardless of whether it was the disciples of the Doctors' Association or the people who came to participate in the conference, all of them maintained a state of silence. It was as if this unforeseen event had caught everyone off guard. Elder Lan Hong, Elder Rong's heart finally calmed down. He stood up from his seat and chuckled. "Why don't we invite the other elders to diagnose him as well? Moreover, it would also convince some people." "All right." Lan Hong nodded and said indifferently, "Someone, go and invite all the elders of the Doctors' Association. Tell them that there is a matter for them to decide." "Yes." Hearing this, a disciple immediately walked down. Not long after, the figures of the elders of the Doctors' Association appeared in front of everyone's eyes. After hearing Lan Hong's words, the elders all stepped forward to diagnose the young man. Even Lin Yiting's master, Luo Fu, was among them. Very quickly, the results were out. Lin Yiting quickly looked at Luo Fu anxiously. When she saw him shaking his head at her, her heart skipped a beat. Chapter 631. Lin Yiting bit her lips. The medicine that she had asked Qiu Ping to give to this young man would not be wrong. Moreover, Lan Hong had indeed determined that his body had an illness before. But why did it change so quickly? What on earth had happened in the midst of all this? Luo Fu had a complicated expression on his face. He was the one who had instructed Lin Yiting to do this. That was why he wanted to fabricate a false conclusion. However, he knew that with so many elders as witnesses, he could not fabricate a false conclusion. He sighed helplessly. He really is not ill. A person who was not ill was participating in the test. There was probably no one in the world who didn't know what this represented. That was why the entire plaza was in an uproar. This young man is not ill. Why did he fabricate a false diagnosis? He even caused us to misunderstand this lady. Do you think that there are people who are not ill among the people we are going to treat? Looks like the Doctors' Association is not completely trustworthy. What if we can't diagnose the patient's illness? Does that mean that we have failed as well? Hearing the discussions, the elders' expressions turned ugly. Some of the more hot-tempered ones even flew into a rage. Luo Fu, this meeting was hosted by your disciple. How could something like this happen? You have to give us an explanation. That's right. We have to give everyone an explanation so that the Doctors' Association's reputation isn't tarnished. Luo Fu's expression darkened. He turned to Qiu Ping and asked, "Qiu Ping, what did you do? I asked you to assist Yiting, and you made such an unforgivable mistake." Qiu Ping was stunned. He looked at Luo Fu's sharp gaze and sighed in his heart. He knew that Elder Luo Fu wanted to sacrifice himself to protect Lin Yiting. However, he was the one behind this. Lin Yiting had only given him a few instructions. Master, I know I was wrong. Qiu Ping knelt on the ground with a thud. When he looked down, a cold glint flashed across his eyes. This has nothing to do with senior sister Yiting. I really don't like Yun Luofeng. That's why I wanted to kick her out. He raised his head and glared at Yun Luofeng furiously. Senior sister Yiting was so polite to her, but she didn't know what was good for her. Furthermore, I overheard that she was planning to frame senior sister Yiting. Luo Fu looked at Qiu Ping in shock. She framed Yiting? Why? Qiu Ping was startled. He had only said it casually. He hadn't thought of a reason yet. Because. He clenched his fists tightly, and a thought flashed through his mind. Because she heard that the Ghost Emperor was invited to the Doctors' Conference this time. Furthermore, the Doctors' Association planned to invite the Ghost Emperor to be the referee. At that time, the Ghost Emperor, as the judge, would have to interact with senior sister Yiting. She had wanted to hurt senior sister Yiting out of jealousy. Master, I just want to strike first and gain the upper hand. Hearing Qiu Ping's angry words, some people who didn't know what was going on took him seriously. Qiu Ping, what did you just say? Lin Yiting frowned. Did you really hear me? Yun Luofeng wants to hurt me because of this? Based on Lin Yiting's understanding of Qiu Ping, she knew that he was making things up, but that didn't stop her from adding fuel to the fire. Because she understood that after today's events, it was impossible for Yun Luofeng to submit to her. Chapter 632. So what if they shed all pretense of cordiality? Since she refused to submit, she could only die. Senior sister Yiting, I heard this with my own ears. It's not false, Qiu Ping vowed. Yun Luofeng has long been in love with the Ghost Emperor. She came here to see the Ghost Emperor. The Ghost Emperor would never spare a second glance at a shameless woman like her. That's why she was jealous that senior sister Yiting had the chance to interact with the Ghost Emperor. She wanted to frame her. Qiu Ping spoke as if he was telling the truth, and everyone believed his words. This woman looks like a decent person, but she's actually this kind of person. She would do anything to get a man. TSK, you really can't judge a book by its cover. Unfortunately, I heard that the Ghost Emperor has no interest in women, so she's destined to have a pipe dream. Yun Luofeng did not seem to notice the crowd's mockery. She narrowed her eyes and looked at Qiu Ping. What else do you have to say? Why don't you tell me everything? Qiu Ping was stunned. He could not understand how this girl could remain so calm in the face of his false accusations. Did she not want to defend herself? Qiu Ping gritted his teeth and said, Furthermore, I can prove that Yun Luofeng's medical skills aren't very good. Yesterday, when I was ordering Ling Yin to pretend to be sick, I accidentally saw her disciple. It must have been her little disciple who eavesdropped on our conversation. Yesterday, Lin Ruobai had indeed been playing with milk tea nearby and had disturbed Qiu Ping, who had been hiding in his room discussing something. Lin Ruobai had not heard their conversation, but that did not stop Qiu Ping from framing them. Elder Rong scoffed and asked sarcastically, Then how do you explain how Yun Luofeng managed to break through your cover with just a few tricks? Hee. Qiu Ping's lips curled into a mocking smile. Elder Rong, if you want to know, I can give you an explanation. I was indeed careless in this matter. I gave Ling Yin the medicine too early, and it caused the medicine to lose its effect. Do you really think it was because of Yun Luofeng? When Lingya heard Qiu Ping's words, she opened her mouth as if she wanted to say something. However, when she saw Qiu Ping's cold gaze, the words stuck in her throat. She couldn't say them, nor could she swallow them. It's easy to prove my medical skills. Yun Luofeng glanced at Qiu Ping, paused, and said, I can heal all the patients here in half an incense stick's time. As soon as the young girl's voice fell, it caused a burst of laughter. Recover all the patients in half an incense stick's time? Was this a joke? With so many people in the square, It would take more than half an incense stick to burn just to diagnose the illness. She still dared to boast? Yun Luofeng, Lin Yiting raised her eyebrows and said in a neutral tone, "You should take back your words. Otherwise, you will definitely regret it. I'm doing this for your own good. I can't bear to see you lose face in public." Yun Luofeng acted as if he didn't hear Lin Yiting's warning, and didn't answer her question. "If I can cure all the patients in half an incense stick's time, then the dragon crystal sword as the prize for the doctor's assembly will be given to me. In addition, I want the medical city to disappear from this day forth. I want the medical city to disappear." How domineering did she have to be for her to say such words at this moment? Perhaps, in the entire roaring dragon continent, no one would dare to say that the medical city would disappear. Chapter 633. Lin Yiting's expression finally showed a trace of change. The elegance on her face could not be maintained. Her beautiful eyes coldly stared at the young girl in the plaza, and a trace of coldness flashed through her eyes. "Yun Luofeng, I agree to your conditions." No matter how strong her medical skills were, it was impossible for her to save so many people in half an incense's time. Moreover, so what if she succeeded? At that time, if the Doctors' Association refused to admit it, there was nothing she could do. After all, the Doctors' Association would not let the medical city disappear just like that. "Elder Rong, do me a favor." Yun Luofeng turned to look at Elder Rong and said slowly, "What is it?" Elder Rong smiled and asked, "I'll write you a few prescriptions later. You have to decoct them for me according to the prescriptions. You have to succeed in half an incense's time." "All right, little girl Yun, don't worry. I will do as you say." Elder Rong's expression became slightly serious. He knew that this matter was of great importance, and Yun Luofeng had entrusted such an important matter to him. What kind of trust was this? He would never let him down. "I'm afraid your medical pavilion doesn't have enough manpower." Elder Lan Hong, who had been silent all this while, continued to speak. "I'll have my disciples help you." If it was any other elder who said this, Elder Rong would definitely refuse. Who knew what kind of poison those people would put in the medicine? However, Lan Hong was different. He was the only clear stream in the Doctors' Association. Back then, when the experts of the medical city chased after Yun Qingya and the Doctors' Association stood up to protect the medical city, he was the only one who raised an objection. It was precisely because of this that he was not welcomed in the medical city. Not long after, a disciple of the association took out an incense burner and lit an incense stick in it. A light breeze blew, and the incense emitted an intoxicating smell. "You can begin." Lin Yiting flicked her sleeves and sat down. Her cold gaze fell on Yun Luofeng's body, and the corner of her lips curled up into a smile. In the Doctors' Association, anyone who fought with her could only lose. Yun Luofeng didn't say anything. She took out a pack of silver needles from her sleeve. After sterilizing them with fire, the silver needles landed on a patient's body with a schwa sound. She didn't even feel the pulse and directly inserted the needle? This is simply looking down on life. She didn't even know what illness the patient had before she started treating him. Looks like Qiuping was right. She really doesn't have any strength. Everyone was shocked by Yun Luofeng's actions. Even the elders of the Doctors' Association were frowning. From their point of view, Yun Luofeng's actions were completely disregarding the patient's life. As a fellow physician, how could she allow herself to be so careless? After Yun Luofeng tested the needle on one person with extreme speed, she quickly flashed in front of another person. Her speed was too fast, so fast that the naked eye couldn't catch her. In less than half an incense stick's time, she had finished performing acupuncture on everyone. Following that, the medical pavilion and Lan Hong's subordinates walked over with bowls of medicinal soup. Yun Luofeng only needed to sniff the side of the bowl to determine which prescription had been used to brew the medicine. He immediately ordered someone from the medical pavilion to bring it to the patient. As long as you drink the medicinal soup that I specially concocted, everyone's illness will recover. Just as Yun Luofeng finished speaking, the patients drank the medicine. The instant the soup entered their stomachs, they felt the pain in their bodies gradually lessen. Chapter 634. Let me take a look at their conditions. Lan Hong quickly walked in front of the patients and placed his fingers on their pulses. After sensing the changes in the patients' bodies, he was slightly stunned. When the other elders saw this, they also went forward to diagnose the patient. How is this possible? How is this possible? Luo Fu was also stunned by his own diagnosis. He took 2 steps back and his expression suddenly changed. This is impossible. Where are the other patients? Let me take a look at the other patients' conditions. Thinking of this, Luo Fu hurriedly squeezed the elder next to him and took his place. At first, Luo Fu was only shocked. In the end, his shock turned into despair. Before the start of the conference, he had already seen these patients, so he was very clear about their condition. But now, he could clearly feel that these people's conditions were gradually recovering. This young girl really saved all the patients in half an hour? She had not even taken their pulses, and she had already diagnosed their conditions? Luo Fu's face was pale. He staggered a few times and almost fell to the ground. His eyes were filled with despair as he looked at Lin Yiting on the high platform. A bitter smile appeared on his lips. This time, Yiting had really been too careless. But no one would have thought that this young girl's medical skills would be this high. Even the president could not compare to her. A miracle, this is a miracle. Lan Hong's eyes shone as he looked at Yun Luofeng. Girl, are you interested in joining my faction? Yun Luofeng shook her head. I don't plan on joining the Doctors' Association. I see. Lan Hong felt that it was a pity, but he did not say anything else. He smiled and said, If you want to join the Doctors' Association in the future, just tell me. I will definitely welcome you. Lin Yiting had said the same thing to her before, but it gave off a completely different feeling. Lin Yiting gave her the feeling that she was giving alms. Elder Lan Hong, on the other hand, had a sincere heart that loved talent. Yun Luofeng smiled and did not reply to Lan Hong. Her gaze turned to Lin Yiting, and she raised an eyebrow. She asked, I won. Can I fulfill my promise? Lin Yiting took a deep breath and suppressed the unwillingness and jealousy that almost surged out of her heart. She said coldly, I can give you the dragon crystal sword. What about the medical city? Yun Luofeng asked with a faint smile. I'm sorry, I can't make the decision for the medical city. In other words, she would never hand over the medicine city. Yun Luofeng, don't push your luck. When Qiu Ping saw that Lin Yiting was being bullied, he immediately jumped up. Medical City is a subordinate force of our Doctors' Association. If we were to hand the Medical City over to you, then where would our Doctors' Association put its face? You'd better stop while you're ahead, lest you get yourself into trouble. Boom! Just as Qiu Ping finished speaking, the girl on the square suddenly raised her hand. In that instant, a powerful aura shot out from her sleeves. With a loud bang, Qiu Ping's body fell from the high platform. You talk too much nonsense. The girl raised her head and looked at Qiu Ping. She was arrogant. Yun Luofeng. Lin Yiting's face instantly turned cold. I've tolerated you time and time again, but I didn't expect you to be so rude. How dare you openly injure someone in my Doctors' Association? You're simply looking down on our association. Yun Luofeng turned his head and looked at Lin Yiting evilly. Doctors' Association? Isn't it just a place that doesn't fulfill its promise? Whether you agree or not, the medical city will be destroyed. Chapter 635. Lin Yiting laughed coldly. If you really have the ability, I don't mind you making a move. Unfortunately, what ability do you have to deal with the medical city? Let me give you a piece of advice. You'd better take care of the General Yun residence first. Otherwise, when you return to the family, all that awaits you is a pile of corpses. Yun Luofeng narrowed his eyes and looked at Lin Yiting coldly. What do you mean by that? Yun Luofeng, you've offended too many people. The others will not tolerate you like I do. They might have already rushed to Long Yuan country to deal with your family. Boom! The young girl's aura surged out and her eyes grew colder. Lin Yiting, if a single hair of the Yun family is harmed, I will make your life a living hell. Yun Luofeng, I'm just giving you a warning. After all, I will not do anything to your family. Lin Yiting laughed coldly. But whether the others will do the same, I don't know, Yun lass. Seeing that Yun Luofeng was on the verge of exploding in anger, Elder Rong hurried forward and held her shoulders. Don't worry, with Elder Ning here, nothing will happen to the Yun family. Furthermore, our medical pavilion lord is currently in Long Yuan country. He is also very strong, and the people Lin Yiting sent will not be able to harm them. Even so, Yun Luofeng would not allow anyone to have any designs on her family. Even if these people could not harm the Yun family. Elder Rong, do me a favor, Yun Luofeng said slowly. Send people to find my second uncle's whereabouts. Second uncle went to the forest of no return to cultivate for the sake of seeking revenge on the medical city. I do not wish to take away his chance. There was nothing more satisfying than killing one's enemy with one's own hands. This was also the reason why Yun Luofeng did not make a move on the medical city when he first arrived at the Doctors' Association. If second uncle did not personally witness the deaths of his enemies, how would he be able to heal the scars that had plagued his heart for so many years? All right. Elder Rong did not think too much before agreeing. I will send everyone in the medical pavilion to search for Lin Qingya. Once I have news of him, I will inform you immediately. Although I will let second uncle personally witness the destruction of the medical city, this does not mean that I will not collect some interest. Yun Luofeng's lips curled up as he narrowed his eyes at Lin Yiting. Yun Luofeng, you want to fight me? Lin Yiting frowned. You better think this through. I'm not Qiu Ping. You won't be able to sneak attack me. Who said I was going to ambush you? Yun Luofeng sneered. Her body flashed and she quickly rushed towards Lin Yiting. At this moment, she no longer concealed her aura and it instantly erupted. Heavenly Spiritualist? After Luo Fu sensed the girl's strength, he turned pale with fright. She's actually a celestial spirit practitioner? Not good, Yiting is in danger. At this moment, Luo Fu couldn't care less about his reputation. He quickly moved in front of Lin Yiting and extended his hand to block Yun Luofeng's attack. Boom! A powerful force landed on Yun Luofeng's palm. Immediately, her body moved back a few steps, and a deep mark appeared on the ground. How shameless! Elder Rong looked at Luo Fu with disdain. An old man over 100 years old has the nerve to fight a teenage girl. Luo Fu swept a cold glance at Elder Rong before turning back to Yun Luofeng. Killing intent surged out from his body. Yun Luofeng, to think that you'd be able to break through to the heavenly spiritualist realm at such a young age. Whether it's talent or medical skills, I admire you greatly. If you're willing to become my disciple, I can forgive you. Otherwise, I can only kill you for the crime of violating the association's rules. Chapter 636. Lan Hong could not stand it any longer and stepped forward. He frowned and said, Luo Fu, how could you threaten a young lady? Besides, if Lin Yiting had not used her family's lives to threaten her, she would not have been so angry. I think we should just forget about it this time. What do you think? Threaten? Luo Fu laughed icily. When has Yiting ever threatened her? She's clearly reminding her not to be too savage in case she offends someone she shouldn't offend and brings disaster to her family. Yiting clearly meant well, but she doesn't appreciate it. Lan Hong shook his head in exasperation. But isn't what you're saying to Lady Yun a threat? Why do you insist on making her your disciple? Lan Hong, you'd better mind your own business. Luo Fu furrowed his brows. If she doesn't want to be my disciple, I'll have no choice but to kill her. After all, she's provoked the Doctors' Association. If she's a member of the association, she can be forgiven. Otherwise, she'll die. Lan Hong smiled slightly. Based on Lady Yun's talent, she doesn't need to be your disciple. Besides, you're not the only elder in the Doctors' Association. She doesn't have to be your disciple. Lan Hong's words seemed to have worked and caused the elders to regain their senses. They hurriedly rushed towards Yun Luofeng. Lady Yun, that fellow Luo Fu isn't a good person. You must not become his disciple. Come to my sect and I'll protect you. That old thing Luo Fu won't dare to do anything to you. Why should I let Lady Yun go to your sect? I think that my sect is the most suitable for Lady Yun. As long as you follow me, not only will I protect Lady Yun, I will also protect her family. Lady Yun, I'm deeply sorry about what happened to your second uncle that year. As long as you join my side, I will definitely seek justice for your second uncle. On this mainland, the strong were revered. That was why everyone was so realistic. If Yun Luofeng was a good-for-nothing, they would not even have the time to help Luo Fu. Why would they say such things? The reason for these people's actions was because of Yun Luofeng's extraordinary medical skills, as well as his shocking talent. Luo Fu looked at the traitors and his elderly features changed drastically. He shouted sternly, "What are you doing? Yun Luofeng is causing trouble at the Doctors' Association, and you guys are still fighting over her? Luo Fu, stop it. Don't think that we don't know that you want to take Lady Yun for yourself. You've done so many things to hurt her, how could she still be your disciple? And if she joins the Doctors' Association, you won't be able to shake her." All the elders revealed looks of disdain when they heard Luo Fu's words. To them, there was nothing more important than Yun Luofeng. Just as everyone was fighting endlessly, a powerful aura suddenly rushed over from the sky nearby, instantly attracting everyone's attention. When everyone looked up, a snow-white figure came into view. The old man stood with his hands behind his back and stepped through the void. It was as though white lotuses had sprouted beneath his feet and he had the demeanor of an immortal. In particular, the aura surging from his body was incomparably powerful. Yun Luofeng also discovered the old man's figure and raised his eyebrows slightly. This old fellow seemed to have changed into another person, and was no longer the scoundrel he was familiar with. "What are you fighting about?" The old man's voice was calm as he slowly walked down from the sky. It was as if a flight of stairs had appeared beneath his feet, and he was slowly walking down that invisible flight of stairs. Chapter 637. The elders were overjoyed when they saw the old man walking towards them. They could not be bothered to argue as they hurriedly stepped forward and greeted him respectfully. "Lord Tianya, you've arrived?" "Tianya?" Those who had not seen Tianya before were first stunned when they heard how the elders addressed the old man. Then, their eyes filled with wild joy. It looks like they had made the right decision to come to the doctor's meet this time. They had actually met godly Dr. Tianya here. Tianya stood in the middle of the elders with an indifferent expression. He had the demeanor of an immortal. He was a completely different person from the little old man who had once pestered Yun Luofeng. If Yun Luofeng had not seen Tianya's true nature, perhaps he would have really treated him as a highly respected old man. "Tell me, what were you arguing about earlier?" Tianya frowned slightly and asked calmly. "It's like this." Lan Hong was afraid that Luo Fu would make a false accusation and hurriedly stepped forward to explain. "This Lady Yun has a grudge against Luo Fu's disciple. However, Luo Fu has taken a fancy to her talent and wants to force Lady Yun to become his disciple. He claims that if Lady Yun wants to live, she can only become his disciple. However, all of us also want to accept Lady Yun as our disciple. That's why we're arguing." Tianya pretended to be profound. "You want Lady Yun to become your disciple? If she becomes your disciple, how should I address you?" At this moment, Tianya's expression was very ugly. She never thought that so many things would happen just because she had arrived a little late. Especially since these people actually dared to make Yun Luofeng their disciple? In this way, wouldn't she have to address them as grandmasters? How could the arrogant Tianya tolerate this? What does Lord Tianya mean? Lan Hong was stunned. His brain could not react in time as he asked in a daze. What do I mean? Tianya's expression was very ugly, so dark that water could drip from it. My meaning is very clear. You want Lady Yun to become your disciple. When I see you in the future, should I also address you as grandmasters? Boom! Like a bolt from the blue, everyone's body trembled as they looked at Tianya in astonishment. What did he just say? If Yun Luofeng became their disciple, he would have to call them grandmasters? One must know that only one's own master's benefactor would be addressed as grandmaster. Did Lord World's Edge mean that Yun Luofeng was his master? Luo Fu's face instantly turned pale, his old body swaying in the wind. He hurriedly held onto the tree beside him to prevent himself from falling to the ground. I misheard, I must have misheard. Looks like I need to go back and treat my ears. How could Yun Luofeng be Tianya's master? I must have misheard. That's right, he must have misheard. Such a thing would never happen. Luo Fu comforted himself. However, before he could force himself to believe these words, he saw Tianya walk towards Yun Luofeng. A calm smile was maintained on his aged face, as if he was an enlightened master, making it impossible for anyone to ignore him. Little girl, I'm late. He smiled indifferently, no longer having that shameless face from before. Tianya, Yun Luofeng rubbed his nose and smiled evilly. I'll give you 99 points for your performance when you first appeared. 1 point less is because I don't want you to get arrogant. Chapter 638. Tianya was at a loss. He looked at Yun Luofeng in confusion. What do you mean? All in all, I have one thing to say. Your actions just now were too pretentious. In comparison, I still prefer your shameless face. The girl's words made Tianya's face fall. His eyes were filled with resentment. Girl, there are so many people here. Can't you at least give me some face? Face. Yun Luofeng stroked his chin with his fingers and asked with a faint smile, Do you still have face? The corner of Tianya's mouth twitched. After all, what Yun Luofeng said was the truth. He had lost all his face in front of this girl. Lord Tianya, under everyone's shocked gazes, an elder said in a trembling voice, Is what you just said true? Yun Luofeng, is he really your master? Tianya frowned impatiently. He turned to look at the elder and snorted. Do you think I'm joking? No. I wouldn't dare. In the entire Doctors' Association, Tianya's status was the most special. How could he dare to question him? However, when they thought of their actions just now, they wanted to find a hole to hide in. If they had accepted Yun Luofeng as their disciple, what would Tianya become? No one dared to imagine such an outcome. Who was the one who said he wanted to accept my master as his disciple? Tianya raised his chin arrogantly as he looked at the crowd in the plaza with a fierce gaze and shouted coldly, Get out here immediately! Swoosh! In that instant, everyone's gazes turned towards Luo Fu. The meaning in their eyes was obvious. Gulp! Luo Fu swallowed his saliva and took a few steps back. When he met Tianya's gaze, his heart trembled. Lord Tianya, I was just joking. After saying this, he glared at Lin Yiting, who was standing beside him, dumbfounded. This girl didn't tell him that Yun Luofeng was related to Tianya. Otherwise, he wouldn't have dared to accept her as his disciple even if he had 100 guts. However, this time, Lin Yiting was wronged. She didn't know about the relationship between the two. Naturally, he didn't know that Tianya would acknowledge Yun Luofeng as his master. In the face of Luo Fu's reproachful gaze, Lin Yiting clenched her fists tightly and lowered her head. A cold glint flashed across her beautiful eyes. Yun Luofeng, the humiliation you gave me today, I will definitely repay it 100-fold in the future. Are you joking? Tianya sneered and said mockingly, Then I'll kill you, then go to your grave and tell you that this is just a joke. What do you think? Luo Fu's expression changed. Lord World's Edge, although our leader respects you a lot, he is not a match for you. However, I am still a member of the Doctors' Association. Aren't you being too rude? Ha ha. Tianya laughed out loud. His laughter was filled with anger. You're threatening me with the Doctors' Association? Good. Then I'll ask that brat Li Chuan to come out right now. Li Chuan was the president of the Doctors' Association. When everyone heard Tianya's impolite words, they couldn't help but look at each other with shock in their eyes. They knew that their president respected Tianya very much. But now, World's Edge was so fierce that he told their guild leader to scram. Was there a reason they didn't know? Chapter 639. Tianya. Just as everyone was hesitating, a helpless voice rang out from the void. Then, they saw an old man in a navy blue robe walk out. This old man was over 50 years old. His face was rosy and there were very few wrinkles on his face. If not for his white hair, it would be difficult to tell his true age. Greetings, President. Everyone in the plaza knelt down when they saw the old man appear out of nowhere. Only Tianya and Yun Luofeng remained in their original positions. Lin Yiting felt even more indignant. She felt as if a hand was squeezing her heart, almost suffocating her. Why did she have to kneel, while Yun Luofeng could stand? One day, she would climb to the top of everyone's head and let them look up to her. Humph, you finally dare to show yourself? Tianya scoffed and said sarcastically, Is this how you've been ruling the Doctors' Association all these years? First, you indiscriminately protected the medical city. Then, you made the geniuses who came to participate in the conference suffer. It's a miracle that the Doctors' Association hasn't been crippled in your hands. Tianya's words were very blunt. His voice was sharp, and each word struck at the heart. Li Chuan's breathing stopped, but he couldn't retort because Tianya was speaking the truth. Sir Tianya, we respect your medical skills and listen to you because of the president. However, this doesn't mean that you can insult our president. Luo Fu's eyes lit up and he stood up. He gritted his teeth and spoke word by word. Even if Tianya's medical skills were great and he was powerful, he couldn't be so rude in front of the president of the Doctors' Association. Even if the president respected him, he still had to be polite. How could Luo Fu, who had finally found an opportunity, give it up so easily? If the Doctors' Association and Tianya fell out, he would have the chance to kill all of them. Luo Fu, how dare you? Li Chuan's expression changed. He released his aura and threw a punch at Luo Fu. Luo Fu's body flew a few meters away and he spat out a mouthful of blood. He raised his head and looked at Li Chuan in shock. He trembled and said, President Yu, Luo Fu, do you know who is standing in front of you? How dare you say such words? Li Chuan flicked his sleeves and said with a cold expression, Even if Tianya had beaten me up, it would be justified, not to mention Tianya had only scolded me. Luo Fu's eyes widened in shock, his face full of shock. What did the guild leader mean? What did he mean by Tianya beating him up was something he deserved? From start to finish, Yun Luofeng had her arms crossed, lazily leaning against the tree behind her. When she heard Li Chuan's words, she subconsciously glanced at Tianya. Her pitch-black eyes seemed to be able to see through everything. Originally, I didn't want to say this. Hiding it from everyone was also Tianya's wish. Li Chuan sneered, but now, because of your rudeness towards Tianya, I have no choice but to say it. Back then, if not for World's Edge, the Physician Association wouldn't have existed, nor would I have the status I have today. Luo Fu gradually felt uneasy in his heart. He opened his mouth to defend himself, but when he saw Li Chuan's cold gaze, he was so scared that he couldn't say a word. Li Chuan took a deep breath and said, Tianya and I have known each other since we were young. Back then, I didn't know anything about medicine, and I was seriously ill. In order to treat my illness, Tianya started to teach me medicine. All of my medical skills were learned from Tianya. If it wasn't for the fact that he didn't want to take me as a disciple, I would have called him master. So, do you think that he deserved to scold me? Chapter 640. Luo Fu finally could not support his body any longer and fell to the ground. His pale face had turned into despair and his heart was dead. Master! Lin Yiting hurried forward and helped Luo Fu up. A fierce look flashed across her eyes as she lowered her head and spoke in a voice that only the two of them could hear. Master, if you bear all the blame, I have a way to save you. Luo Fu was stunned. He lifted his head to look at his disciple. At this moment, he felt as if he was meeting her for the first time. What do you want? Believe me, I can only save you if I escape punishment. Hearing Lin Yiting's deliberately lowered voice, Luo Fu laughed bitterly. He knew that this was the only way. If he let Lin Yiting and him go to jail together, the two of them could only wait for death. Hee. Luo Fu laughed bitterly and stood up from the ground. His old eyes stared at Li Chuan in the sky and sighed, Lord President, I know that I have committed an unforgivable mistake this time. I have never thought of escaping from all my crimes. I accept my punishment. He gritted his teeth and continued, but my disciple is innocent. She doesn't know anything. President, please forgive her. Hearing this, Lan Hong stared at him coldly. Elder Luo Fu, she had made a bet with Miss Yun at that time. If Miss Yun was able to save these patients within an hour, she would hand over the medicine city to Miss Yun. However, she actually went back on her word just now. How are you going to give us an explanation for this? Luo Fu's heart sank. I was the one who incited this. I told Yiting before that regardless of whether Yun Luofeng succeeded or not, she could not comply with her conditions. Yiting was against my decision, but I am her master, so she could only listen to my orders. Yiting is a good girl, please forgive her, President. Li Chuan turned to Tianya hesitantly. Tianya, what do you think we should do? Tianya frowned slightly. His eyes were filled with murderous intent, but just as he was about to make his decision, Yun Luofeng suddenly stretched out his hand and stopped him. Girl! Tianya looked at Yun Luofeng in surprise. With Yun Luofeng's personality, he would never let Lin Yiting go. Why was she stopping him now? Second uncle isn't here yet. Her meaning was very obvious. If Yun Qingya did not come, then the people of the medical city could not be touched. Perhaps Yun Luofeng was afraid that Tianya didn't understand her meaning, so she continued to repeat, Second uncle wants to take revenge personally. Especially those who hurt him back then. Let Lin Yiting off? How was this possible? She would only use the blood of the people of the medical city to pacify the pain Yun Qingya had suffered all these years. Sigh, Tianya sighed. Since you've made this decision, then let these people run wild for a few more days. When your second uncle arrives, it will be the time of their deaths. Yun Luofeng raised the corner of his lips. Tianya, when the time comes, send someone to keep an eye on the people from the medical city. I don't want them to disappear before second uncle arrives. All right, I will do as you say. Tianya smiled and turned his gaze towards Li Chuan. Since Luo Fu is willing to bear all the responsibility, then take him away. Let the people from the criminal division decide the guilt. In addition, I don't believe that Lin Yiting is innocent, so I want you to restrict the freedom of everyone in the medical city. Also, torture Luo Fu and make him confess his accomplice. Chapter 641. A sense of terror appeared in Luo Fu's eyes. She quickly grabbed Lin Yiting's hand and exclaimed in a trembling voice, Yiting, I won't be able to hold on for much longer. You must save me. I will. Lin Yiting held Luo Fu's hand and slowly straightened her body. Her gaze slowly turned towards Yun Luofeng and she said softly, Yun Luofeng, you've won this time. I hope that you can continue to win against me. She then turned around and left without looking back. Only her hands, which were placed by her thighs, were clenched tightly. Yun girl, Elder Rong finally recovered from his shock. He shook his head and smiled bitterly. When I first met you, I had thought that based on your medical skills, you would certainly be godly Dr. Tianya's disciple. I never thought that I would be wrong. You're actually his master. This news was too shocking. It was so shocking that he nearly lost his ability to think. Yun Luofeng shrugged his shoulders. I didn't admit it. Hearing this, Tianya's solemn expression instantly turned into one of grievance. He exclaimed resentfully, Then when will you admit me? I don't accept a disciple at your age, but I've promised Xiao Bai that I will guide you in medical skills. When will you be free? Yun Luofeng's lips curled into a small smile. His jet-black eyes shone with a bright light. Tianya's heart was filled with excitement and he nearly hugged Yun Luofeng. Fortunately, Yun Luofeng had dodged quickly and managed to avoid his bear hug. I'm free anytime. Tianya was so excited that he could not control himself. His entire elderly face was flushed red. Shall we begin now? At this moment, the little old man was rubbing his palms. His smile was as vulgar as it could be. It was completely different from his sage-like demeanor. The crowd was dumbfounded and could not believe that this vulgar old man was their highly respected godly Dr. Tianya. Could it be that someone had accidentally switched him out? Little girl, Elder Rong chuckled, when you're guiding godly Dr. Tianya, can I listen in? Yun Luofeng thought for a moment and nodded. Sure, as long as you don't disturb me. Elder Rong's heart leaped and he quickly agreed. Little Yun, don't worry. I won't make a single sound. After hearing their voices, all the elders of the Doctors' Association started to get restless. Miss Yun, can we also go and listen? I promise we won't disturb you. The elders' eyes were filled with anticipation as they quietly looked at Yun Luofeng. Yun Luofeng gently stroked his chin and turned to Lan Hong. That year, my second uncle and the medical city had a dispute. How many people naturally stood on the side of the medical city? Lan Hong was stunned for a moment. He thought for a moment and said, There was a dispute in the past at the Doctors' Association. Half of the people think that the medical city is not wrong, the one who is wrong is Yun Qingyao, and the other half remains silent. At that time, other than Lan Hong who had objected to the Doctors' Association's decision, the others either stood on the medicine city's side or maintained their silence. Therefore, after hearing his words, Yun Luofeng raised the corner of his lips and said, Some of you think that my second uncle is in the wrong, and the others remain silent about what happened to my second uncle. Why do you think I should forgive your actions and help you improve your medical skills? She could understand those who remained silent, but she could not accept that it was because of their silence that second uncle had suffered so many years of harm. Chapter 642. The crowd lowered their heads in annoyance and cursed the people of the medicine city a few hundred times in their hearts. If it had not been for these people, why would Yun Luofeng have rejected them? Little Yun, Elder Rong glanced at Lan Hong and said, Lan Hong was the only one who had objected to the Doctors' Association's actions that year. I wonder if he could attend the hearing? Yun Luofeng gently nodded, yes. She had always been able to distinguish between kindness and hatred. Even though Lan Hong had been unable to go against the majority's decision, his heart was still fair and just. Based on this point alone, she would not reject Lan Hong's participation. The elders stared at Lan Hong enviously as if they wanted to replace him. If they had known that this would happen, they would not have sided with the medicine city. Otherwise, they would not have ended up like this. Li Chuan had wanted to ask Yun Luofeng to allow him to attend the hearing as well. However, when he saw the miserable looks on the faces of the other elders who had been rejected, he swallowed his words. After all, he was the one who had stood up to protect the medicine city. What right does he have to ask Yun Luofeng to teach him medicine? This medicine city has caused us all to suffer. Li Chuan sighed and spoke hatefully. To the crowd, Yun Luofeng had been able to make Tianya acknowledge her as his master. This proves that her medical skills are so powerful that it would anger both men and God. If they could receive her guidance, they would certainly be able to avoid many detours. However, because of the medicine city, they had missed a great opportunity. Let's go, we'll settle the score with the medicine city. The elders agreed in unison and hurriedly walked towards the guest room. At this moment, they had already vented their anger from being rejected on the people of the medicine city. Li Chuan also wanted to join in, but when he thought of his own status, he could only suppress the impulse in his heart. In the luxurious guest room, Lin Gu paced back and forth impatiently. His eyes glanced out of the door from time to time, and there was a sense of urgency in his eyes. If Lin Yiting had not been afraid that he would stir up trouble again, she would not have stopped him from going to watch the assessment. Hence, he could only wait quietly in his room for news. Suddenly, the sound of hurried footsteps could be heard from outside, and the door was pushed open. When he saw the woman who had pushed the door open, his face lit up with joy, and he asked, "Yiting, did you succeed? That woman, Yun Luofeng, has failed?" Ah! As long as he thought of the young girl losing face in front of everyone, he felt an indescribable joy in his heart. However, Lin Yiting's expression was very ugly, and there was not the slightest bit of joy after her scheme succeeded. After seeing her face, Lin Ji's heart skipped a beat. "Yiting, what happened?" "Father," Lin Yiting bit her lip gently, a complicated look in her eyes. "I've failed." Yun Luofeng could tell at a glance that the person was pretending to be sick. He even exposed him on the spot. "What?" Lin Gu staggered and fell heavily to the ground. His face was pale as he murmured, "This is impossible. Your plan is flawless. How could it fail?" Lin Yiting's gaze became even more complicated. "Not only that, I also made a bet with Yun Luofeng. If she can cure all the patients in half an incense stick's time, then she wins. If not, then she loses." Within half an incense stick's time? Even if Yun Luofeng's talent was any greater, it was impossible for him to accomplish this. Half an incense stick's time is probably only enough for her to take his pulse and make a diagnosis. If someone had said that Yun Luofeng had cured all the patients on her own, perhaps he would have believed it. However, with the addition of half an incense stick's time, Lin Gu would never believe that she had done it on purpose. Chapter 643. I hope so too. Lin Yiting's eyes darkened as she said, "Unfortunately, she did it. Moreover, I used the medical city as a wager and lost it." Lin Ji's body shook and he said embarrassedly, "Yiting, you're joking with me, right? Even Tianya couldn't do it in half an incense's time. Could it be that she has the ability to rule the world?" Lin Yiting lowered her eyes slightly, concealing the ruthlessness in her eyes. "Tianya naturally can't do it, because Tianya is her disciple." Lin Ji's pupils gradually dilated, and his gaze changed from the initial shock to fear. There were only a few words echoing in his mind. Tianya was Yun Luofeng's disciple. That genius doctor whose name shook the continent, Tianya, was Yun Luofeng's disciple? This was even more shocking than Tianya taking in Yun Luofeng. Lin Gu climbed up from the ground and clenched his fists tightly. Suddenly, as if he had thought of something, he raised his head and stared fixedly at Lin Yiting. At this moment, even though the woman in front of him looked a little pale, she did not lose her usual elegance and indifference, as if she had a card up her sleeve. "Yiting, you must have a way, right?" A glimmer of hope appeared in Lin Ji's eyes. "Ever since you were young, you've always been more composed and clear-headed than the average person. I know that you definitely have a way to save me." Lin Yiting sighed. Over the years, there were many times when she wanted to give up on the medical city. However, in the end, she was unable to overcome the hurdle in her heart. This medicine city was the place that had raised her. Lin Gu was her godfather. If she were to ignore the medical city, wouldn't she be an ungrateful wretch? She could not bear such a bad reputation. In order to save me, my master has already separated me from this matter. Logically speaking, as long as I know my place now, I would be able to live a peaceful life. However, I simply cannot ignore your medicine city. In other words, I could have abandoned all of you, but now I'm doing everything I can to save you. I'm afraid that your medicine city will never be able to repay such a great kindness. Yiting, Lin Ji's eyes lit up. I understand. I understand everything that you've done for the medical city. I just want to know, what method do you have to save the medical city? Lin Yiting was silent for a moment. In 2 days the Ghost Emperor will arrive. The Ghost Emperor? Yiting, what do you want to do? Lin Gu looked at Lin Yiting in shock. The Ghost Emperor is very strong. Even the president is not a match for him. I heard about this from Master. Lin Yiting narrowed her eyes as a cold light flashed across them. And this time, I'm the referee because Master wants me to get close to the Ghost Emperor. After all, if I host this meeting, I will have the chance. Lin Gu seemed to have thought of what Lin Yiting wanted to do, and his eyes were a little surprised. Yiting, you mean, originally, I wanted to let nature take its course. If the Ghost Emperor doesn't like me, it doesn't matter. Lin Yiting interrupted Lin Ji's words. She looked out the window and suddenly flashed with a determined light, but this time, I can only give it my all. Lin Gu seemed to understand what Lin Yiting wanted to do and his eyes were filled with surprise. Yiting, you mean, Yiting. Lin Ji's complexion finally turned for the better, but he still had some worries in his heart. Your master has already fallen. I'm afraid that the person hosting the meeting this time will be someone else. If that's the case, how are you going to approach the Ghost Emperor? Lin Yiting smiled indifferently. I have my own ways. You only need to remember one thing. No matter what Yun Luofeng does to you over the next few days, you must endure. After a few days, I will avenge you. Chapter 644. Alright, a sharp light flashed in Lin Ji's eyes. I'll let that SL*T Yun Luofeng run wild for a few more days. Once the Ghost Emperor becomes my son-in-law, I'll make her understand the consequences of offending me. Now, every time he thought about the famous Ghost Emperor becoming his son-in-law, his heart would fill with uncontrollable excitement. He could almost see the scene of the Ghost Emperor and Lin Yiting getting married. Lin Gu, get your ass out here. Boom. Suddenly, the door was kicked open by a foot. Immediately after, several elders rushed in from the outside and surrounded the entire room in an instant. Lin Gu was shocked by these people and asked in a trembling voice, You. What do you want? What do we want? The leading elder smiled evilly. Of course we want to F***ck you and your son. As soon as he finished speaking, the elder waved his hand. In that instant, a man dressed in embroidered robes was thrown out from behind the crowd and landed on the ground with a loud thud. Son. When he saw the bruises all over the man, Lin Gu turned pale with fright. He quickly stepped forward and helped the man up. Son, are you all right? Father. Lin Hao grimaced in pain. What on earth happened? Why did the elders of the Doctors' Association attack the Medicine City? However, it's all right. Father is here, nothing will happen. Lin Gu quickly shielded his son as he glared angrily at the people in front of him. When have I, Lin Gu, ever offended all of you to the point that you would be so cruel to my son? Humph. The leading elder scoffed coldly. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have offended Miss Yun and she wouldn't have taught us medicine. Back then, you were the one who sought death, but you had to drag the entire Doctors' Association into this. Now, we have nowhere to vent our anger, so we can only come to you. Then, he gritted his teeth and said, Let's go and F***ck them up. The elders had long been unable to restrain their violent hearts, and powerful spiritual energy struck Lin Ji's body, one after another. However, because Lin Gu had protected Lin Hao in his arms the entire time, Lin Hao did not suffer any attacks. Lin Yiting looked at the father and son pair. She was afraid that she would provoke an undeserved calamity, so she silently retreated. Forget it, I'll let them off for now. After an unknown period of time, one of the elders stopped and said helplessly, "Actually, we were also at fault for what happened back then. If we hadn't helped the medical city indiscriminately, we wouldn't have ended up like this." "That's right. We are indeed at fault. I really envy that old fellow Lan Hong. Back then, he was more reasonable, so he could go and listen. If you knew this would happen, why did you do it in the first place?" The hearts of the various elders were filled with regret. After they understood the situation, they did not make things difficult for the people of the Medicine City. Instead, they walked out on their own. Perhaps they needed to find a place to reflect on their actions over the years. However, they're finally gone. Lin Gu breathed a sigh of relief after everyone had left. "Were you injured just now? Father, is the Miss Yun there talking about someone from the Yun family?" Lin Hao clenched his fists tightly. Because Lin Gu was afraid that mentioning the Yun family would provoke Lin Hao, he had never mentioned the Yun family in front of Lin Hao over the past year. Even after coming to the Doctors' Association, he didn't tell Lin Hao that Yun Luofeng would be attending the conference. Now, hearing Lin Hao's question, he became silent. Chapter 645. "Father, tell me, is it those bastards from the Yun family?" The veins on Lin Hao's forehead bulged as he clenched his fists so tightly that they creaked. Lin Gu sighed helplessly. "However, it's the Yun family's Yun Luofeng." "He's here, Yun Luofeng? That dog Yun Qingya's niece?" Lin Hao flew into a rage and said angrily, "Father, why did the bastards from the Yun family come to a place like the Doctors' Association? What qualifications do those lowly things have to step into such a noble territory? Go and kill Yun Luofeng right now." Looking at Lin Hao's twisted face, the corner of Lin Ji's lips curled up into a bitter smile. "I'm afraid we won't be able to kill Yun Luofeng right now. Why? Why can't I kill that bastard? I don't care. I want you to kill her and the people from the Yun family. I want everyone in the Yun family to die. That dog Yun Qingya had defeated him in front of everyone's eyes. How could he endure such humiliation? If Yun Qingya wasn't already dead, he would have definitely sent the experts of the medical city to annihilate the Yun family. Unfortunately, in order to prevent Lin Hao from being provoked, Lin Gu had already instructed the people of the medical city not to let any news of Yun Qingya reach his ears. Thus, even now, Lin Gu still did not know that Yun Qingya was still alive. "However, calm down." Lin Ji's eyes flickered a few times. "Yun Luofeng is a young genius that was invited by the Doctors' Conference this time. The Doctors' Conference has a rule that no matter what grudges there are, no one is allowed to fight during the conference. In a few days, Father will help you kill him to vent your anger." Lin Gu did not dare to tell Lin Hao about the relationship between Yun Luofeng and Tianyu. Otherwise, Lin Hao would definitely be provoked. In any case, the Ghost Emperor would be his son-in-law. With the Ghost Emperor as his son-in-law, why would he need to be afraid of Yun Luofeng? "Humph!" Lin Hao snorted disdainfully, but his expression improved a little. "Young genius? What kind of genius is she? Are the people from the Doctors' Association blind to actually invite that kind of dog to participate in the conference?" "Yes, yes, yes." Lin Gu hurriedly echoed Lin Hao with a face full of doting. "The Doctors' Association is indeed blind to invite her to participate in the conference. How can that woman Yun Luofeng compare to you, Howard? Howard, you are the true genius." "Oh right, Dad. Why did those association elders beat us up? Are they related to Yun Luofeng?" Lin Hao touched his aching cheek and sucked in a breath of cold air. Lin Gu was startled for a moment and unconsciously frowned. He was thinking about what kind of excuse he could use to brush off Lin Hao. "Father, do you think that Yun Luofeng used her beauty to confuse those elders to beat us up? If the people from the doctors are confused by her, then we will be." Before this, Lin Gu had pasted the portraits of all the members of the Yun family in his room so that he could humiliate them. Yun and how I one he luo yun in and chun how in and lun yun he how emperor in lin comma yun. How, comma, in comma how lin yun in lin, ghost emperor? Lin Hao was stunned for a moment, comparing the ghost emperor and the Doctors' Association. Who is stronger? This, Lin Go pondered for a moment. The ghost emperor's strength is unfathomable. I don't know what level he has fallen to. However, Yiting said that the president of the Doctors' Association is not a match for the ghost emperor. Chapter 646. The president of the Doctors' Association was no match for the ghost emperor? Lin Ji's eyes lit up. Father, will the ghost emperor really become my brother-in-law? How have you forgotten? Lin Gu smiled lovingly. For the past 20 years, which man has your sister taken a liking to has been able to escape from her clutches? At the end of the day, the ghost emperor is only a man. As a man, how could he escape the temptation of beauty? Lin Hao nodded in agreement. That's true. After all, I'm a man. As long as it's a good-looking woman, I want to accept her. The ghost emperor and I must have the same thoughts. Unless he's impotent, he would turn a blind eye to a beauty. Furthermore, Father, I have one more request. I want Yun Luofeng's body. Once I've obtained her body, I'll kill her. He seemed to recall that peerlessly beautiful face which was like that of a celestial being. He licked his lips vulgarly and narrowed his eyes with a lascivious light. However, a woman like Yun Luofeng will sully you. However, as long as you like her, I can make her your concubine. Lin Ji's love for Lin Hao was shown on his face. When he faced Lin Hao, his face always carried a warm smile. It goes without saying that the reason why Lin Hao had become such a hedonistic playboy was closely related to his love for him. Father, Lin Hao curled the corners of his lips sinisterly, a woman like that is only fit to serve me for one night. Even if she cries and begs for me to sleep with her, I won't give her a second night. A woman who isn't even a virgin, I think she's too dirty. He had already decided that Yun Luofeng must have used her beauty to bewitch the elders. That was why the elders had come here to avenge her. Since that was the case, she must have had a physical relationship with the elders. How could such a dirty woman have the right to become his concubine? At most, he would think that he had visited a brothel to visit a prostitute. He would never visit the same prostitute a second time. At this moment, Qin Yen came to a halt on the rugged mountain path. She leaned her body against the tree behind her, feeling somewhat exhausted. She gently closed her eyes. Yenner, are you tired? Yi Ling turned to look at Qin Yen and a gentle smile appeared on his cold features. Qin Yen opened her eyes and shook her head. I'm fine. Let's continue. Not too long ago, they had received the news that the city governor's residence in the medical city had been burnt down. It was said that the person who burned down the city lord's mansion was their young miss. If the young miss had returned, then she would surely head to the Doctors' Association to participate in the meeting. Thus, she and Yi Ling had hurriedly led some people over for the sake of lending her a hand. All right. Yi Ling lovingly rubbed Qin Yan's head, a warm smile on her lips. If you're tired, we can rest. After all, you haven't stopped to rest for the past few days in order to hurry on with our journey. Didn't you guys also not rest? Qin Yan rolled her eyes. We are men. You are just a woman. I'm the leader of the Flame Corps, not a weak woman. Qin Yan's eyes shone with a determined light. I won't rest until I see the young lady. The people from the medical city were also in the Doctors' Association. That was why she was in such a hurry, afraid that Yun Luofeng would be in danger. Ah, Yi Ling sighed. If you're tired, I don't mind carrying you. Chapter 647. No need, Qin Yan propped herself up. Yi Ling, if I'm so weak that I need you to carry me, how would I have the right to fight for you? It's getting late, let's continue. As she spoke, she gripped her sword tightly and planned to continue walking. However, at that moment, a sneer suddenly rang out. causing everyone to be on guard. Yun family? I didn't think we'd be so lucky to meet someone from the Yun family on our way. Since that's the case, I'll kill you first, then go to the Yun family and cause trouble for Elder Yun. As soon as she finished speaking, countless figures descended from the sky and surrounded everyone. The leader of the group was a middle-aged man. This man was dressed lavishly, but his eyes were like a venomous snake, making everyone uncomfortable. Yi Ling, Flowing Gold Country's third prince, Yun Luofeng's subordinate, deputy commander of the Iron Legion. Qin Yan, Yun Luofeng's maidservant, commander of the Flame Legion. Looks like I've met the right person. The middle-aged man seemed to be talking to himself as his lips curled into a mocking smile. Who are you? After sensing the middle-aged man's powerful aura, Yi Ling instinctively shielded Qin Yan behind her and stared at him coldly. I'm the subordinate of Elder Luo Fu of the Doctors' Association. The middle-aged man narrowed his eyes. I'm under orders to go to the Yun family and capture Elder Yun. Previously, after Yun Luofeng had rejected Lin Yiting, she had sent people to the Yun family. This was her last layer of protection. If Yun Luofeng still refused to submit to her, she would use the Yun family's lives to threaten him. She had done this many times. Unfortunately, the middle-aged man did not know about the incident at the Doctors' Association, nor did he know that Lin Yiting could not even protect herself after Luo Fu stepped down. Otherwise, he would not have dared to cause trouble for the Yun family. Qin Yan, be careful. Yi Ling's expression darkened. This middle-aged man is an intermediate earth spiritualist. Everyone else is a high spiritualist. Right now, among the Yun family's troops, he was the only one who had broken through to a low-level earth spiritualist. The strongest among the rest was only a high spiritualist. But with his own strength, he could not fight against these people. Fortunately, the Yun family had Elder Ning and the Pavilion Master of the Medical Pavilion as witnesses. An earth spiritualist would not be able to do anything to the Yun family. After all, with regards to the Yun family's news, Lin Yiting was still stuck at the time when Yun Luofeng was in the Yun family. She did not have the slightest idea that the current Yun family had two great experts overseeing it. But even if she knew, there was nothing she could do, because the most powerful person she could use in the Doctors' Association was an earth spirit. This was also why Elder Rong had not been worried after hearing Lin Yiting's threat. Instead, he had been comforting Yun Luofeng, because he understood that the experts that Lin Yiting sent out would not be able to do anything to the Yun family. These people indeed couldn't do anything to the Yun family, but to the Iron Steel Legion that had left the Yun family, it was not a small threat. Go. Kill everyone from the Yun family. A gloomy look flashed across the middle-aged man's face as he coldly ordered, I want them to understand the consequences of going against Yiting. In an instant, the people behind him pulled out their weapons and quickly surrounded the army. Yi Ling, let's fight together. Qin Yan quickly drew her weapon and stood back to back with Yi Ling. Her clear eyes were filled with determination. Even if I, Qin Yan, die, I will not lower my head to the Doctors' Association. Chapter 648. The other members of the army drew their weapons one after another and joined the battle. The sounds of battle resounded throughout the mountain path, and fresh blood flowed all over the ground. The middle-aged man narrowed his eyes, and his gaze gradually shifted towards Yi Ling. After that, his body transformed into a swift and fierce sword that shot towards Yi Ling. He'd noticed a long time ago that Yi Ling was the most powerful person in this group. Since that was the case, then he would kill him first. Yi Ling, watch out! When Qin Yan saw that the middle-aged man was about to charge towards Yi Ling, she somehow gained a speed that left no time for her to cover her ears as she charged towards the middle-aged man. Yan! Yi Ling roared anxiously. With a bang, the sword in his hand chopped off the head of the enemy in front of him, and he hurriedly stretched out his hand to grab Qin Yan. However, his fingers only managed to tug at Qin Yan's sleeve, and he managed to pull it off. After that, He could only watch helplessly as Qin Yen stretched out her arms and stood in front of the middle-aged man with a resolute expression on her face. "If you want to die for him, I'll fulfill your wish." The middle-aged man laughed coldly, and he raised the long sword in his hand high and slashed it towards Qin Yan's head. Yi Ling was completely enraged. A terrifying pressure emanated from his body, and he instantly dealt with the row of people in front of him. Subsequently, he flew swiftly towards Qin Yen with the intention of stopping the middle-aged man's attack. Swoosh! Suddenly, a flying knife flew towards him from behind, and it tore through the sky, leaving a long mark behind. However, Yi Ling acted as if he hadn't seen the flying knife, and he didn't even try to dodge it. Instead, he pulled Qin Yen, who was blocking the middle-aged man. However, the flying knife didn't slash Yi Ling's body. Instead, it bypassed him as if it had eyes of its own, and it sliced through the middle-aged man's throat with a slash. The middle-aged man's body stiffened, and the long sword slipped out of his hand. He didn't even know what had happened before his body fell backwards. He died with everlasting regret. Yen. At the instant that the long sword fell to the ground, Yi Ling had already pulled Qin Yen into his arms. His voice was trembling, and it was filled with obvious terror and terror. "Why did you do that?" Qin Yen smiled. "Because you're my husband, and I don't want to see you die. So, I'd rather die first." "Qin Yen, why are you so selfish?" Yi Ling tightly pressed on Qin Yan's shoulder and couldn't help but roar. "What should I do if anything happens to you in order to save me? I won't allow you to do this again." Qin Yen lowered her eyes and a smile appeared on her delicate face. Perhaps next time, she would be just as selfish, because she couldn't let Yi Ling fall before her. Therefore, she would rather be the one to fall first. "By the way, Qin Yen, we should first thank you for saving our lives." Yi Ling turned his head. Before he could say the last word, it was stuck in his throat. His eyes widened bit by bit, excitement written all over his face. "Leader." Leader, in the void, a green robe fluttered in the wind. The man stood with his hands clasped behind his back. His features were clear and handsome. He was like a proud green lotus that bloomed alone. "Second Master." Qin Yen was so excited that she almost shed tears. "Second Master, you're finally back. We've been waiting for you for more than a year. Furthermore, the young miss has gone to the Doctors' Association." Just as she finished speaking, the graceful figure in the sky quickly disappeared. The direction he was heading towards was surprisingly the Doctors' Association. Chapter 649. Ever since Luo Fu had been imprisoned, he finally understood what it meant to be better off dead than alive. Furthermore, because of his and Lin Yiting's actions, the host of the meeting was chosen to be the disciple of another elder, Hu Po. At this moment, Hu Po, who was cultivating, was disturbed by a series of footsteps. He frowned slightly and turned to look at the woman who had pushed the door open. "Lin Yiting, what are you doing here?" Hu Po's face gradually showed signs of impatience as he asked coldly. Lin Yiting did not think much of it. She smiled elegantly and slowly walked through the door. "I heard that you're going to welcome the Ghost Emperor outside the city tomorrow?" "That's right." Hu Po frowned slightly. "But what does this have to do with you? Don't forget that you no longer have any status in the Doctors' Association." Lin Yiting's eyes flickered and she smiled gently. "Hu Po, I'm here to ask you for a favor. One of my junior sisters admires the Ghost Emperor very much. So, I want her to go with you to meet the Ghost Emperor tomorrow." "Lin Yiting, forgive me for not being able to help you. After all, if I help you and Master finds out, he will definitely not forgive you." Hu Po coldly rejected Lin Yiting. Lin Yiting was not discouraged and continued to smile. "Hu Po, I heard that Elder Dingling has been favoring Xian Feng more recently? I have a way to help you." "What way?" Hu Po's heart sank slightly as he asked. "I have a 500-year-old ice ginseng with me. If you give this ice ginseng to Elder Dingling, he will definitely favor and trust you in the future. As for me, I only want you to do me a small favor. Hu Po fell silent. Lin Yiting's words were too tempting, and he could not reject her as decisively as before. Are you sure that you only want me to help you with this small favor? Hu Po's words were filled with doubt. He knew Lin Yiting's character all too well. This woman was very cunning, and if one was not careful, one would fall into her trap. I swear that I will only let my junior sister take a look at the Ghost Emperor. Based on my junior sister's abilities, she does not have the right to attend the meeting. I guarantee that she will not do anything out of line. Don't worry. Lin Yiting's lips curled into a smile as she vowed. Hu Po gritted his teeth. Alright. I'll believe you this once. Senior brother Hu Po, I thank you on behalf of my junior sister. Lin Yiting's smile widened, but the moment she lowered her eyes, a cold glint flashed across her eyes. Yun Luofeng, do you think that I won't have a chance to meet the Ghost Emperor just because the Doctors Association is keeping a close eye on me? You're wrong. As long as I want to leave this place, there are thousands of ways. With that in mind, Lin Yiting walked out of the room and closed the door for Hu Po. In a simple yet elegant room, the incense burner exuded an intoxicating smell. Yun Luofeng lazily sat on the wooden chair. He raised his eyebrows and looked at Milk Tea, who had squeezed in through the crack of the door. What did Lin Yiting do? Ji. Milk Tea called out twice and said, Master, I just went to Lin Yiting's room and found that she was in disguise. Disguise? Yun Luofeng was startled and asked, why did she disguise herself? Could it be that she wants to escape? No. According to Lin Yiting's character, she would not easily leave the Doctors' Association. After all, the Doctors' Association had not punished her yet, so how could she be willing to leave? I'm not sure. Milk Tea raised her big bright eyes. After she disguised herself, she removed her makeup and left the room. Because I wanted to report this to Master, I did not continue to follow her. Chapter 650. Lin Yiting would never have guessed that Yun Luofeng had allowed her to move freely in the Doctors' Association because he had already sent an unremarkable little hamster to keep an eye on her. However, Milk Tea was in a hurry to report to Yun Luofeng and did not hear the conversation between Lin Yiting and Hu Po. Yun Luofeng's fingers lightly tapped on the table as an evil light flashed across his eyes. Continue to follow Lin Yiting. If she tries to sneak away, knock her out and bring her back. Before second uncle arrives, no one in the medical city can be missing. Yes, Master. Milk Tea obediently agreed. With a swoosh, she squeezed through the narrow gap in the door once again. It's already been 2 days. Yun Xiao will probably arrive tomorrow. Yun Luofeng's lips curled into a smile. A few days ago, Yun Luofeng had saved all the patients in half an incense stick's time. Hence, she was the rightful leader. As there were still other rankings to be determined, the other genius doctors had to compete again. Today was the last day of the test. Tomorrow was the real grand assembly. Master, Lin Ruabai, who was standing quietly in front of Yun Luofeng, pursed her lips. We've already been at the Doctors' Association for a few days. Why don't you accompany me to go shopping? Not interested. Yun Luofeng raised his brows. Yun Xiao will be here tomorrow. I need to conserve my energy. Master, why do you need to conserve your energy when Grandmaster is coming? To tease him. The corner of Lin Ruabai's mouth twitched. In front of her domineering master, Grandmaster would always be suppressed. She could already imagine how intense the two of them would be tomorrow. It would be like dry wood meeting a raging fire. Thinking of this, Lin Ruabai did not continue to disturb Yun Luofeng. She silently retreated. The next day dawned. Early in the morning, countless people dressed in the robes of the Doctors' Association had gathered at the city gate. This caused the residents in the city to look at each other in dismay. They did not know who had arrived to cause such a commotion. While everyone was discussing, a black figure suddenly appeared in the sky above the city gate in the blink of an eye. At this moment, a phrase appeared in everyone's mind. Unparalleled in the world, a sovereign descending upon the world. The man stood quietly in midair. His cold, black eyes, which seemed to look down on all living things, swept across the crowd below him. It made them feel the urge to kneel down and submit to him. His face was covered by a mask, and it was impossible to see the expression under the mask. However, that pair of thin lips had a cold arc, as if in this man's eyes there was no room for the existence of anyone. Milk Tea, who was hiding in the crowd, subconsciously glanced at Lin Yiting, who was in disguise. Anger flashed through her big bright eyes. Could it be that this woman snuck out of the Doctors' Association for the sake of her master's man? In particular, there was a flash of infatuation in her eyes, which made the anger in Milk Tea's heart burn even more. At this moment, Lin Yiting was staring infatuatedly at the man in the sky. Even though she could not see his face under the mask, it did not stop her from being infatuated with him. This man, with just his aura, had already conquered him. It also made her understand what she wanted in this life. It was a good thing that Lin Yiting was unable to see Yun Zhao's face. Otherwise, she would have fallen even deeper and would have been unable to extricate herself. Chapter 651. The man slowly walked down from the sky. His tall figure shrouded the ground, and his powerful aura made one's heart tremble as if there was a deep sense of oppression. Lin Yiting hurriedly lowered her head, not daring to look at this man. Otherwise, she would feel that her neck would be crushed by his powerful aura at any time. The others felt the same way as they lowered their heads tightly, not even having the strength to lift their heads. "Ghost Emperor, you're here?" Hoopa suppressed the excitement in his heart and quickly walked to Yun Zhao. "I've been waiting for you on Master's orders." Yun Zhao's gaze was as cold as ever, and his black eyes would never have any extra emotions. The corners of his lips under his mask curled into a cold and hard angle as he walked through the city gates. "Ghost Emperor." Suddenly, a clear voice rang out from the crowd. Lin Yiting had already raised her head and looked straight at the man who had walked through the city gate. A glint flashed across her infatuated eyes. "I'm Guo Fulan, a disciple of the Doctors' Association. I've heard a lot about you, Ghost Emperor, so I've been waiting here." Under Luo Fu's tutelage, there was indeed a disciple called Guo Fulan, and Lin Yiting had disguised herself as her. When Hoopa heard Lin Yiting's words, his expression changed and he hurriedly shouted, "Guo Fulan, what are you trying to do? Can you bear the responsibility if you alarm Lord Ghost Emperor?" Lin Yiting clenched her fists tightly. She knew that this was her last hope and she must not give up. "Lord Ghost Emperor, I've heard my senior sister Lin Yiting mention your name. My senior sister Lin Yiting is not only unparalleled in beauty, she's also elegant and kind. Now, she's been framed. Please help me, Lord Ghost Emperor." Yun Zhao did not seem to hear the pleas of the woman behind him as he walked through the city gates. Dressed in black, he appeared cold and unfeeling. Lin Yiting thought that her words had no allure to the man. She bit her lips and continued, "Lord Ghost Emperor, senior sister Yiting offended that woman because of you. Because that woman admires you, the kind-hearted senior sister Yiting couldn't bear for her to be consigned to eternal damnation, so she persuaded her out of goodwill. Who knew that it would lead to her crazy revenge? This time, Yiting has indeed suffered an undeserved calamity. Lord Ghost Emperor, you must help her." Among the crowd, Milk Tea's eyes were filled with contempt as she stared at Lin Yiting mockingly. Unparalleled beauty? Elegant and kind? Was Lin Yiting praising herself? This was the first time it had heard someone praise itself in such a narcissistic way. Of course, the premise was that Milk Tea knew that the fake face was Lin Yiting. If it was someone else who didn't know the truth, they wouldn't feel disgusted by Lin Yiting's words. After all, Lin Yiting was currently wearing someone else's face. Yun Zhao's figure gradually disappeared from the street. From the beginning until the end, he had not even spared Lin Yiting a glance, as though he had treated her as air and directly ignored her. "Guo Fulan, what are you doing?" Hoopa was a little angry and glared fiercely at Guo Fulan. Lin Yuting had told me that you're sensible and would never do anything that would embarrass the medical city. Why would you say such things in front of the Ghost Emperor? Lin Yuting sneered. I'm only standing up for senior sister Yuting. How can that slut Yun Luofeng compare to senior sister Yuting? Now, this is the only chance to save senior sister Yuting, and I will never give it up. Hupa was stunned as he stared at Lin Yuting in astonishment. Guo Fulan, when did your relationship with Lin Yuting become so good? First, she came here to beg me to help you because of you. Now, you're risking your life for her. Chapter 652. How would he know that the person standing in front of him was not Guo Fulan? It was Lin Yuting who had already changed her appearance. Hu Pu, I want to attend the doctor's conference with you. Lin Yuting's eyes darkened. At that time, Yun Luofeng will also appear. I want to take this opportunity to use the Ghost Emperor to get rid of her. No way. Hu Po's expression changed. Return to the Doctors' Association immediately. I will not tolerate you anymore. Do you think that you still have a chance to go back on your word? Lin Yuting laughed coldly. If you don't bring me to the conference, I will tell your master that you have accepted senior sister Yuting's bribe. Hu angrily pointed at Lin Yuting and his body trembled slightly. He regretted it. He regretted accepting Lin Yuting's bribe. Otherwise, he would not be in such a passive position now. All right, I will do as you wish. Before Hu Pa left, he turned back to look at Lin Yuting. However, I feel that you and senior sister Yuting are becoming more and more alike. Guo Fulan's heart suddenly trembled. She thought that she would be exposed, but she saw Hu Pa turn around and leave, hurriedly chasing in the direction that Yun Xiao had disappeared in, at the conference hall. Under the vast blue sky, all the elders took out the treasures that they had obtained over the past few years and proudly welcomed the envious gazes of the people around them. The doctors' conference, in layman's terms, was a conference to flaunt one's wealth. Every time before the doctors' conference, people from various forces would search for precious treasures to flaunt in the Doctors' Association. As Yun Luofeng had only sent people to monitor the people from the medical city, he did not restrict their activities in the Doctors' Association. Hence, on the day of the conference, the people from the medical city also went to the conference hall. Lin Hao saw the young lady in white in the crowd at first glance. He could not help but clench his fists as a fierce glint flashed across his eyes. At this moment, the young lady was like a moon in the hearts of the masses. Whether it was the elders or disciples of the Doctors' Association or the people from other forces, they all surrounded her and placed the treasures in their hands in front of her, as if they were presenting a treasure. Miss Yun, I have painstakingly obtained this blood guillotine. If you want it, I can give it to you. However, I have a small request. Can you guide me in my medical skills? As for my 1,000-year dragon turtle grass, I'll give it to Miss Yun. As for my request, it's the same as his. I only need a little guidance from Miss Yun. Such a precious medicinal herb naturally needs to be matched with a powerful physician. Therefore, this medicinal herb is useless in my hand. Why don't I give it to Miss Yun? She can maximize its effects. These people had once treated medicinal ingredients as priceless treasures, not to mention the medicinal ingredients that they had brought to the Doctors' Association to show off. Now, they were fighting to give it to Yun Luofeng, afraid that the young girl would reject their request. Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows evilly and instructed Lin Ruobai, "Little Bai, take the medicinal ingredients and note down the names of these doctors. I will be staying in the Doctors' Association for a few more days. If you have any questions, you can ask me." As a doctor, what he lacked the most was precious medicinal ingredient. But now, Yun Luofeng had found a way to obtain medicinal ingredients faster. Then can we use medicinal herbs to exchange for a chance to guide them? The elders of the Doctors' Association held their breaths and looked at Yun Luofeng nervously. Yun Luofeng thought for a moment and then nodded. If the herbs are rare enough, I can answer a few of your questions. Chapter 653. all the elders were excited. Some of the old men did not wait for their companions to react and ran towards the place where they stored their medicinal ingredients. They wanted to be ahead of everyone else and present their medicinal ingredients to Yun Luofeng. Father, Lin Hao frowned. Why do all those people want to curry favor with Yun Luofeng? Lin Ge was stunned and felt a little regretful. If he had known earlier, he would not have let Lin Hao come. But in the end, he did not reject his request and brought him to the venue. This. Lin Ji's eyes flickered a few times and he replied, that's because of Tianya. Yun Luofeng and Tianya have an improper relationship. In order to curry favor with Tianya, they naturally pestered Yun Luofeng. Lin Hao suddenly understood and looked at Yun Luofeng with disdain. So that's how it is. This woman is really dirty. Thinking of this, Lin Hao planned to ridicule Yun Luofeng. But at this moment, a powerful aura suddenly appeared and enveloped the entire venue. Yun Luofeng was all too familiar with this aura, so familiar that he could recognize it even if he closed his eyes. At the end of the venue, the man's cold eyes were tightly locked onto the young girl who was surrounded by all the stars. It was as if there was a trace of a shallow smile on his lips, so shallow that it almost disappeared. When their eyes met, a strange feeling spread between the two of them and spread to the surroundings, causing the man's body temperature to lose its previous coldness. The man only looked at her quietly. The young girl's figure was imprinted in his eyes and engraved in his heart. Engraved in his heart and bones, unforgettable for a lifetime. Hu Po and Lin Yiting hurried over and saw the man standing silently at the end of the venue. They did not know what had happened, but the man's aura was no longer as oppressive as before. At this moment, Lin Yiting suddenly saw Yun Luofeng madly rushing towards Yun Shao. She was like a wild wolf and Yun Shao was a delicious dessert in the wolf's mouth. That undisguised emotion made Lin Yiting's heart happy and the corners of her lips curled into a mocking smile. Yun Luofeng, I had thought that you were smarter than others, but I never thought that you would be so stupid. You actually became so impulsive after seeing the Ghost Emperor. With the Ghost Emperor's personality of not liking strangers, her blood might splatter on the spot. As if she could already see Yun Luofeng's miserable appearance as his blood splattered on the spot, the smile on Lin Yiting's face grew even wider. Her sinister eyes coldly stared at the white-clothed girl who was rushing towards Yun Shao. Facing the young girl who was like a hungry wolf pouncing on its prey, not only did Yun Shao not make a move, she instead opened her arms wide and the corners of her cold lips gradually rose into an arc. Bang! Yun Luofeng's body fiercely pressed against Yun Shao, pressing the man fiercely against the ground. She kissed him without restraint, her arms tightly pressed against the ground. The two of them were so engrossed in their kiss that they seemed to have become a world of their own. It was as if they had forgotten the people around them. Lin Yiting hurriedly covered her mouth and took a few steps back. Her eyes were filled with terror and her delicate body trembled slightly. Not only did Yun Luofeng hug the Ghost Emperor, he even forcefully kissed him. But the Ghost Emperor, who had such a cold personality, not only did he not refuse, he even seemed to be enjoying it. Furthermore, with the Ghost Emperor's strength, if he had not willingly fallen down, Yun Luofeng would not have been able to push him to the ground. In other words, the Ghost Emperor had willingly allowed himself to be pressed down by her. When she thought of this, despair rose in Lin Yiting's heart. The man whom she had regarded as her last hope was actually related to Yun Luofeng? Chapter 654. Yun Luofeng finally let go of the man she had pinned down. She smiled evilly and pointed a finger at the man. Yun Shao, during the time I wasn't by your side, did anyone teach you? I only allow you to teach me. The man raised his eyes and stared at Yun Luofeng seriously. In this lifetime, he would only allow this woman to get close to him. At the same time, he would only be taught by her. Yun Luofeng hugged Yun Shao once again. Her entire body pressed against his and her chin rested gently on his shoulder. She lowered her eyes and said, Yun Shao, I missed you. After a year of separation, she finally understood what it meant to miss someone. Perhaps that inadvertent glimpse of him that year was destined to make her fall into his hands. But she willingly fell into his trap. How could this be? Lin Gu stumbled back and stared at Yun Xiao in fear. He gulped fiercely. How did the Ghost Emperor know Yun Luofeng? Father, what are you talking about? Isn't the Ghost Emperor my brother-in-law? A woman like Yun Luofeng can't even be compared to a brothel girl. How could she be worthy of the Ghost Emperor? After Yun Zhao's appearance, the entire venue had fallen into silence. As a result, Lin Hao's words were clearly heard by everyone present in the venue. How? Lin Gu roared angrily, "Shut your mouth." This was the first time he had lost his temper at Lin Hao in so many years. Hence, Lin Hao's temper flared up. Father, you were the one who said that the Ghost Emperor would become my brother-in-law. You even said that the Ghost Emperor would kill Yun Luofeng to avenge us. The Ghost Emperor will be here soon and Yun Luofeng will pay for her mistake. Lin Ji's lips were deathly pale. He trembled a few times but he could not make a single sound. All these years, he had given Lin Hao the greatest protection. As a result, Lin Hao did not know anything about the mainland and did not recognize the Ghost Emperor. In Lin Hao's mind, a powerful cultivator like the Ghost Emperor would definitely be surrounded by a group of people and would be incomparably glorious. Yun Xiao had come alone in silence. How could he be the famous Ghost Emperor? Yun Zhao's gaze gradually shifted away from Yun Luofeng and landed on Lin Hao's face. A powerful murderous intent radiated from his body, causing his aura to become incomparably cold. Being locked on by his aura, Lin Hao's body couldn't help but tremble. He subconsciously hid on Lin Ji's body. However, his mouth was still unforgiving, and he angrily said, "You are merely the lover of that bitch Yun Luofeng, yet you dare to bully the people of the medical city like this. When the Ghost Emperor arrives, it will be the day of your death." Pa. Lin Gu slapped Lin Hao's face, his voice trembling. "Apologize, Father. Apologize to the Ghost Emperor." Originally, Lin Hao was still extremely angry because of his father's slap, but after hearing what his father said next, his gaze unwittingly shook, and a trace of panic flashed in his eyes. "Father, what did you just say? Ghost Emperor? Where is the Ghost Emperor?" Lin Gu sighed heavily. At this moment, his heart was filled with regret. He regretted spoiling Lin Hao to such an extent. That masked man is the Ghost Emperor. Like a bolt out of the blue, Lin Hao's legs trembled and he instantly fell to the ground. His face, which had already turned pale due to excessive indulgence, became even paler at this moment. "Father, you're joking with me, aren't you? The Ghost Emperor is my brother-in-law. How could he possibly be Yun Luofeng's lover?" Chapter 655. Lin Gu stared at Lin Hao's pale face, gently closed his eyes and sighed softly. Forget about Lin Hao, even he could not believe what was happening before his eyes. Milk Tea's sharp eyes caught sight of Lin Yiting, who was trying to sneak away. She instantly jumped and charged towards Lin Yiting, her sharp claws biting her calf fiercely. "Arg!" Lin Yiting shrieked in pain. At that moment, everyone's eyes turned towards her. The entire place was abnormally silent. Under everyone's gaze, her lips trembled slightly, and she subconsciously took a few steps back. She didn't even have time to deal with her bleeding leg. Milk Tea raised her little head and glanced arrogantly at Lin Yiting. She then turned around and quickly returned to Yun Luofeng's side. "Are you a disciple of Luo Fu?" Lan Hong gently furrowed his brows and asked. Lin Yiting's expression froze. Her eyes flickered as she quickly tried to think of a way to leave this place. "I seem to remember that based on your position in the Doctors' Association, you do not have the right to attend the meeting. I wonder who allowed you to enter?" Lan Hong's gaze inadvertently swept across Hu Po's body and the meaning in his eyes was clear. Thud. Hu Po saw that the situation was not looking good and knelt on the ground in fear. He trembled as he spoke. Elder Lan Hong, Master, it's my fault for allowing her to sneak in. I'll get someone to throw her out later. If Hu Pe had said that Lin Yiting had bribed her, perhaps she would not have been able to find an excuse. However, in order to shirk responsibility, Hu Pe had said that she had sneaked into the meeting. This had given Lin Yiting an opportunity. She gritted her teeth and knelt on the ground. Her eyes were filled with a pitiful look as she sobbed. Elder Lan Hong, Elder Ding Ling, this is all my fault. It has nothing to do with senior brother Hu Pe. Hu Pe stared at Lin Yiting in astonishment, as if he never thought that she would take all the blame. However, Lin Yiting's following words caused his expression to change. My heart aches for senior sister Yiting. She's such an outstanding woman, she shouldn't have ended up like this. Lin Yiting lowered her eyes and quickly crawled towards the Ghost Emperor. Lord Ghost Emperor, I beg you, only you can save senior sister Yiting. Moreover, with senior sister Yiting's looks, she is not inferior to Yun Luofeng. After saying that, her voice paused for a moment before she continued, besides that, Lin Hao had claimed that you were his brother-in-law. That was the Medicine City's own decision, and it has nothing to do with senior sister Yiting. Previously, the people from the Medicine City had even forced senior sister Yiting to seduce you. However, senior sister Yiting has always advocated mutual affection and would never do such a thing that is immoral. She's innocent. Yun Luofeng raised the corners of his lips and looked at the woman who had crawled in front of Yun Shao with a smile that was not a smile. I wonder if you've heard of this saying? What? Lin Yiting was stunned. Grandma Wang sells melons and praises herself. Even if you want to sell yourself, you don't have to keep praising yourself. What nonsense are you talking about? Lin Yiting's face paled, and anger surged from her chest. She clenched her fists tightly. Yun Luofeng, how can a vicious and merciless woman like you be worthy of the Ghost Emperor? You are just jealous of senior sister Yiting. If she wanted to survive, the Ghost Emperor was her only hope. Hence, at this moment, Lin Yiting has lost her usual rationality and spoke without thinking. I thought that I've made myself clear enough. Yun Luofeng slowly left Yun Zhao's body and raised his brow evilly. He then smiled gently. Lin Yiting, even if you sell yourself off and praise yourself, you still can't sell yourself.